You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
This makes my nipples hard.
Welcome to the show. Today, Paul and I are heading back into the roaring 20s, but not just for jazz and cocktails. We're diving into Sierra's classic murder mystery, The Dagger of Amon Ra, where our favorite detective in training, Laura Bow, has to solve a string of murders inside a museum packed with super shady characters. And a special treat, joining us for this episode is the one and only OneShortEye. He's a speedrunner and adventure game enthusiast who spent a lot of time dissecting this game. You might hear us calling him Matt once in a while as well. So whether you've played The Dagger of Amon Ra a dozen times or you just want to hear about a really good whodunit, we're about to unravel all the clues and Sierra logic that make this game super unforgettable. So, hey, how's it going? Hey, Paul.
Hi, Anna. Hi.
I thought I should talk to somebody specific, or you'll both
You
be
seem
awkward.
clearly excited to move on to Matt. You're like, hey, Paul. Yeah, he's fucking... That's fair though, honestly.
It's my policy to talk to you first.
We're all great. Let's just assume we're all super good. Even if we're suffering deep down inside in an eternal pool of darkness, we're good. We're all doing great. Because that's how podcasts start. All right, so. Matt, how are you? I just said you were good for you. Is that true?
Oh, I'm horrible.
Okay.
This is a terrible, no good day.
You stopped crying before we started recording. That's better than last time.
Yes. No. I am good. I'm excited to talk about this game and also anxious because there is so much to talk about, and much like the game itself, our discussion may go off the rails, but that is okay.
Yeah, it's definitely going off the rails. That's kind of our thing around here.
Well, this game's like that too, because it seems like it'd be such a straight up game. Like, this is going to be intense. There's not going to be any humor in it. It's just like it mystery and it's old school. But then when you start to sort of peek around the corners and the edges, it's actually kind of a funny game too. This game hits a few different genres.
Yeah, good call. It does. It really does, and you don't know which one you're going to get at any point. And, like, I still wonder if some of the deaths were meant to be jokey or not, because it's like, like, I mean, the porcupine, right? Like, if you see that, it's like, are they serious? Like, I don't think they're serious, but the art is so nice, and it doesn't seem jokey, so I just don't know.
I mean, we'll get there, but I think that it's like a serious jokiness. Like, haha, funny death. But now let's make it look as serious as possible, taking the humor very seriously. It's a very dry sort of humor in the game, I think, both in the dialogue and the descriptions and in the art, too, if art can be dry humor. I don't know.
Right.
Did you kind of follow what I'm saying?
Definitely, yeah.
Definitely.
It's like humor in disguise.
Why don't you tell us, Matt, just like the basic, like, okay, so let's imagine somebody listening to this podcast has actually never played this game. Can you kind of give us an idea of what is it? An adventure game. We know that.
Yeah. So it is an adventure game. So you have your traditional Sierra point and click interface from, the era, your walk icon, your poke icon, your eye icon, your inventory, all of that. But it is a murder mystery, and so it takes place in 1926, right in the middle of, as you said, the Roaring '20s and Prohibition. And so Laura Bow, our main character, has recently gotten a job at a newspaper in New York, so you get to explore New York. How fun. And just very brief, like, big picture overview is that Laura gets assigned to cover a story. It's her first story, and she has to cover a theft from a museum. So the Dagger of Amon Ra, from the title, has been stolen from the museum, and she's supposed to write a story on it. And so she investigates that. She goes to a party at the museum to investigate and talk to people who are there to try to write her story. And then people start dying. And she has to start or try to solve the murders in the museum that she is now locked inside of for some contrived reason. But hey, that's all right. It's spooky and a little bit scary, and you're not quite sure what's going to come out, when you transition screens. Is there going to be a body there or not? And you are trying to investigate and find things and find clues and talk to people and suss out what really happened, and also try to save your own life in the end.
All right. That's a pretty cool game. Is this something that you experienced when you were younger? I'm guessing. I sense a little bit of passion behind the description of the game there.
Yes, so I believe I came out right. I believe I played it right when it came out, because I do have memories of playing this when I was a kid, and we actually had the floppy version, and that one came out in 1992, and then the CD version came out a year later. So I imagine that we played it within a year or two of release, and this is one of those games that is very flawed, but in ways that are really interesting. It's kind of a train wreck game. Like, there are things about it that are wonderful and really, well done, like the art and the humor and the music especially, and just the feel of it. But then there are things that really fall apart too and make no sense, and it feels like the team was under a deadline, and it fails in ways that are kind of spectacular, that are not just, oh, well, the game's broken. Like they're like, how to put it? There are ways that games can be bad that are uninteresting, but the Dagger is not like that. The ways in which it is bad are really fascinating.
Yeah, there's something about this game. What you're saying almost reminds me of, like, I don't know, if you needed readers to read. Reading glasses, and like, if you were to read the novel or the page or whatever and be like, this is really good, it really feels like I just read a murder mystery. But then if you put the readers on, you'd be like, oh my god, this is a mess. Like, if you really scrutinize what's going on here, it's kind of like, makes sense if you don't think about it, sort of thing at times.
Right.
Okay, so but we'll go into Act 1, but I do want to I guess preface that with the opening scene. And so you're aboard the ship, the Andrea Doria, and a man is strangled and his body is stuffed into a trunk. So this is the intro before Laura comes into the picture, let's say. And I bring that up to say that it's funny that I needed, like, a big bold note to mention this, that it even happened, because this part of the game for me might as well have not existed. Like, I feel like it goes over my head every time I see it. I'm just like, okay, there's an unrelated guy being stuffed in a trunk. Anyway, back, now we go to the museum where what I need to pay attention to is happening, but that's not really the case, right? That initial murder does tie into the story.
Yes, so, yeah, there's this intro scene where our character isn't even present, and we have no context for it at all. And in retrospect, it's interesting because of how it ties into everything. But it's very easy to forget that this thing even happened, where you're just watching a ship and a random dude just gets strangled and stuffed into a trunk. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I argue from my own standpoint, I guess, that there's a way to get through this entire game at least 2 times without ever really stopping to be like, what about the guy in the trunk and all this other side stuff that's confusing me? Maybe that has something to do with it, but...
Yeah, and spoilers, that guy in the trunk is vital to understanding the plot of what happened. So
if you've never played Amon Ra before, don't disregard or shake that scene off like I did every time I played it, because it's there for a reason.
With these games, well, both the Colonel's Bequest games, I had a tendency, especially when I was younger, to run through them and not truly understand the nuances of the storyline. And sometimes I would end up missing the overarching story at all, or the reason why I was doing what I do. And then when I'd go to play it again later, I'd be using a hint book, and then I really wouldn't understand it again because I didn't have to, because I'd be following what was in there. So it's not sometimes until I see what we're talking about on these podcast episodes and do the real research that I start to actually figure out what these games are truly about.
I love that. I didn't understand it because I didn't have to. That's a good like biography.
Well, and I think that is a strength and weakness of this game is that you can still enjoy it if you don't understand it because, like I said, the art is great and the atmosphere, in my opinion, is really cool. The humor is great. But, if you try to figure it out, you're going to, slam your head into a wall.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll go into Act 1 in a second.
Yes,
but
go ahead,
now might be a good time before we do that to I guess lavish some praises in case the following several minutes of your life comes across nitpicky from us to the game. But you had touched on that the atmosphere is really good, and I think that at the end of the day, like, if I was to judge it through like the eyes of a child or whatever, it'd be like it's a good game. It does what it's supposed to do because you feel really creeped out. You never know when you're going to see a body when you transition rooms. You feel isolated in the sense that you're like trapped in a building you can't get out of, and it just does a really good job of capturing the feel and the vibe of what it is, if nothing else. Yeah, I don't. Did it actually like? I don't know what physically scare you actually means. So before I say, did it feel like that implies like urinating oneself, I guess, or something. I don't know where I'm going with that, but it, did it in an impactful way scare either of you guys when you played it as kids?
Not scared, but in a creepy way, like kind of. I don't know if how to put it. Like, when you watch something like Nightmare Before Christmas, like you're not scared, like pissing your pants, but it's like a sort of comforting creepiness. That's how I feel about this game.
Nice.
It's scary, like Leisure Suit Larry is sexy, right? Like it is, but like it's not,
but not
exactly
really.
Right,
like
but nobody's
that.
like erect. Yeah.
You're gonna get a few people writing in, dude. Don't tell me what my experience with Larry was.
Yeah, fair enough.
First you're
fair
telling
enough,
Anna
it
and Matt
is.
what kind of mood they're in, then you're trying to dictate the state of my junk. And Leisure Suit Larry, Jesus. Okay, well, with that, let's move a smooth segue into Act 1.
Yes.
A nose for noise.
A nose for news.
Oh, right, thank you. Jeez, one job. I essentially just had to
You
set
had
this up.
one
And
job. That's all right. So anyways, she gets to meet Rube at this point and a couple of other characters and see what's going on. This is kind of where you first, I feel, kind of get positioned as to where you are supposed to be in the hierarchy of the newsroom as a junior reporter and kind of who you are and that you need to prove yourself. It kind of sets that stage pretty quickly.
Yeah, so you come into the newsroom. You are, Laura Bow, new reporter, and you're assigned this story to report on the dagger theft. And yeah, I think you're kind of someone threw out the word isolated. I think it was you, Paul, a second ago, and you do kind of feel that way even in the beginning because you're a woman in the newsroom. There are no other women. There isn't even a woman's lounge. There's a gentleman's lounge, but there's no women's bathroom anywhere because why would we need that? And you're just sort of thrown into this, and you have to, start asking questions and finding stuff and exploring things. And you get this notebook that Crawdfaller T. Rhubarb, what a name. He's a reporter who was assigned to the story before Laura, but then it got reassigned. He's not very happy about that. But you do get his notebook with some names in it. And the game has an interesting mechanic that I'll maybe talk a little bit about later, where you can chat with people, but you can also interrogate them. You can ask them things, and it opens up your notebook, and then you have to start asking them about topics.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay. Off the bat, I just want to touch on the gender thing because I think they do a really good job of making you not only feel like Laura, but like you feel the annoyance of it being, the 20s and that you're a female and that you're trying to make it. But it's not in like a finger wagging, like feel shame, this is how it used to be, thanks a lot, guys, sort of thing. Like it's more almost works for the adventure game narrative where it's like a little bit, it feels a little in your way. And just like another thing to overcome gameplay wise or I don't know, narrative wise. So anyway, I think they handled that stuff really, really good. They don't like rub noses in it. It's just like a part of life. And then Laura's so sassy and not afraid to stand up for herself and such that's kind of fun too, watching her snap back at people with her accent.
Yeah, she definitely is sassy.
Yeah, she doesn't take any shit. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've met our boss. We're free to explore the office. We get the notebook as you just said, and then I guess what's next? We gather intel on the players.
Yeah, so I mean, you sort of start. You can ask questions of Crawdfaller to get some info on people and places, and you can start finding stuff. It is an adventure game. One thing we did kind of gloss over is that in the introduction there are a few other characters that we meet. So I don't know if you want to talk about them now or later.
Let's go now because there's so many people. Yeah, we might as well start slipping them in.
So we have that scene on the ship, right, where the guy gets killed.
Yeah.
And then the very next scene is when the ship docks in New York and a few people come down it's called the gangway, whatever the ramp is. Vocabulary lesson, who knows? Someone's going to correct me on that. But in any case, we have two people come down, and one of them is Pippin Carter, who is an Egyptian archaeologist. And he's a guy who found the Dagger of Amon Ra in Egypt. We say found, obviously, like, appropriated maybe might be a better word. So he's taken the Dagger of Amon Ra from Egypt, and it's now being showcased in New York. And we also have Dr. Patashep Tut Smith. It's a mouthful. They shorten it to Tut Smith throughout the game. But he is a representative from the Museum of Cairo, and he's followed along to demand that the dagger come back to its homeland, right? So we've got conflict already here of, the British guy taking something from a foreign country, which I not based at all in reality. No. So we've got that, and then we also have another person come down the ramp who we learn is named Dr. Carrington, and we don't get too much information about him at that point, right? But also down the ramp is Dr. Carrington's steamer trunk, and it's being pushed by a stevedore named Steve Dorian.
You have to say his name like this. You have to say Steve
Yes.
Dorian really low.
Yes, yeah. He's for those of you who haven't played it. The character's voice is pitched down. He's voiced by Josh Mandel, who we know from many other Sierra games, but his voice has been pitched low, and then it's weird. But
they should have slept on that decision. The pitch they settled on, they should have slept on that and came back the next day and been like, you know what, let's go one higher. That's
A little bit. Because they wanted to do slow, and they wanted to make him sound sexy, and they're like low and sexy. Like, I see what they were trying to do there.
They went too low. I could even forgive it if it was like a tiny bit of a pitch shift down, but it's just too much.
That'll be the mod, right? Somebody's going to make the mod where Steve Dorian's voice is just a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But it hits that like the audible realm of Uncanny Valley too. Where you're just like, one of these voices doesn't belong.
Right. Yeah, it's very jarring. It's very jarring. But in any case, Steve mentions, hey, this trunk is really heavy, and we're supposed to infer that it's the same trunk that we saw in the intro that the guy was stuffed into.
Right.
So, which is a bit of a leap even right off the bat, but that is what we're supposed to infer. And so they come down. So we've met our four characters: Carrington, who discovered the dagger, Tut Smith, who is from Egypt and wants the dagger returned, and we've got Dr. Carrington, who we don't know it now, but we find out later is the new president of the museum. That's who he is. And we have Steve, who works at the docks and pushed that trunk down.
Right, and he paints and sculpts and does all sorts of manner of things with plaster.
Yes, we find that out later that he is an art student.
Mm-hmm.
I like your framing of Tut as somebody who is essentially there to ask for the thing back. Like, because you're right. I didn't really strip it away to that degree before to see it for what it is. Where he's like, I'm just going to, I don't know, with a lot of elegance and grace all considered, I'm going to get dressed up in a suit and just, kind of politely ask for this back the entire game.
And sometimes not so politely.
Right, yeah.
but yes, that is that for sure.
So I want to try to at least pause it at each like major screen that the game introduces, so we can kind of, especially for the way you've probably got things framed mentally, Matt, just like, okay, well, in this screen I know these fun little tidbits or whatever. So let's say we just walked out of the Tribune, and so we're looking at New York City, looking at the street hot dog stand. Maybe.
Yeah, well, the stand is not there yet.
Okay.
That's in a little bit, but yeah. So we walk out. We've got the busy street, and this one is infamous. But this is the famous death where if you try to cross the street, Laura gets run over. It's a very amazing sound effect and animation of a car coming out of nowhere and running her over, and she does like a flip and lands on the sidewalk, and you're dead. So yeah, it's not quite the first screen that you die, but it's the second screen. So
They were being kind with this one.
they were being a little bit kind. And when you die, you get one of those Sierra death messages, right? And it says, it's something like, if you don't look both ways, you'll be, dead in no time flat. Ha ha. And it's literal. You actually have to take the eye icon and go to one side of the screen and click it, and then go back to the other side and click it and look both ways. And I have met people who never got that, and they don't realize that you can actually cross the street. And there's also a taxi, like a transportation system in this game where you hail a taxi. And so I've met people who just took the taxi everywhere, even though you can't tell, right across the street. In game, they'll take a taxi across the street because they haven't figured out that you can look both ways.
I was absolutely that person. Yeah, I had no idea that you could literally look both ways. I remember playing this and sending, because we had done a pod on this 5 years ago or something, and I had just run through most of the LucasArts games. And then I played Dagger, and I remember texting Anna at the time, and our co-host, and I still feel this sense of I'm back in a Sierra game. It just felt so good to get hit by that car. I'm back under the safe guidance of Sierra. And frankly, earlier today, I didn't think about this till now. Earlier today, my kid failed to look both ways, and I uttered to him, "You need to play more Sierra games," which is where this shit comes from. You know what, son? I'm assigning you more homework. Get back home, cross the street in a Sierra game. That'll learn you.
It is frustrating, but it's also hilarious.
Right.
It's a pretty funny death. What some people don't know, actually what I found most people don't know, is that after you look both ways one time, you can go back and forth across the street indefinitely, as much as you want. But then that variable, I guess, gets reset when you go inside a building. So if you go inside and then come back out,
that's Sierra.
Yeah. If you go inside and then come back out, then you have to look both ways again. But if you look,
dude, because when you were saying that it stores the information, I was just like, wow, that's very kind of them. That doesn't even sound like Sierra. And then it's oh, there it is. And it's even worse that they bother storing it once, because it kind of gaslights you into getting hit that second time.
Exactly. Yeah. Though I found with most people, they just out of caution, because why wouldn't you? They just nobody tries to cross the street multiple times after they get run over once.
Right.
Why would you do that? Of course, it's going to hit me when I try to cross again.
Sierra players would, though.
So yeah. So that's that screen for now. There's something that comes there later. So yeah, should we go? Do we just keep going?
Yeah. What would you do next? I guess.
I would go across the street, and then we'd be in front of the police station. And in front of the police station, I'll just talk about this puzzle very briefly because it's weird. There's a homeless guy. There's a bum who's on the streets, and what you have to do is use your hand on him, and then he rolls over asleep. And then the next time you come back on the screen, he's gone, and the newspaper he was holding is there. And then you find a coupon for a free sandwich in it. It's a puzzle that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know how, poking a homeless guy makes him leave later, and then you get, there's no signpost. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
You get food from a homeless guy in the end. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Totally makes sense. In Quest for Glory, you give the beggar money, but in this game, you just roll him over and take some shit.
No. Well, and unfortunately, you have no money because one thing we didn't mention is that in the opening cutscene, as Laura arrives in New York, she gets mugged and her luggage stolen. So she has nothing. She has her purse, and that is it. Which I guess adds to that feeling of like isolation even more.
Yeah.
Which
So
they're really good at.
great.
I mean, in both the games, it really gives you that feeling of isolation. The first one and the second one. It's something I really love is that ambiance. Like you said, not scary, maybe more like eerie or like puts you on edge.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess it fits like the parody or stereotype of New York in a sense too, especially from the eyes of like a innocent Southerner. Like, you know, you're gonna go to New York and get mugged off the bat. Like it sounds like something a Southern belle would be scared of actually happening if you went to New York.
Yes. And I'm not sure if we said it explicitly or not, but yeah, Laura is from Louisiana, right? That's the state she's from, right? I'm
Right.
assuming- yeah.
Yeah. That Creole. That's the accent. Yeah.
Yeah. So
interesting.
she is Southern, and she is her the voice actor who plays her is very talented. It's Leslie Balfour, who I don't know whether she was married at the time or like when it was recorded, but she was the wife of the producer, Bruce Balfour.
Okay.
So that's and so the same voice actress plays Laura and the narrator, who is British. That character's
okay.
British.
She is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, as well as another character we'll meet soon named Yvette. So Yvette and Laura and the narrator are played by the same person. So and she does a great job. But in any case, let's go inside the police station, and we try to get some info from the guy at the front desk, but he's kind of cranky. We learn that his stomach is growling, so we can't really do too much with him. But then the big thing to do here is to go meet Detective O'Reilly. And, you know, we got a lead from our notebook and from Crawdfaller that, yeah, we probably ought to talk to the detective in charge of the dagger theft investigation. And O'Reilly has nothing for us. There's basically an empty file, and he really doesn't care.
An empty file and a hothead. He's not typical. I mean, this game, I mean, yeah, it plays with stereotypes a little bit, which is really typical, of the era that it's in and the era that it's set in. And O'Reilly's no exception. Fun character, though.
What I kind of like is that sort of gets lost after you play it a few times is that when you first play it, he seems pretty inept. You know, it seems like he just doesn't, like he's this bumbling, stupid idiot who doesn't know what he's doing. And I imagine that you know, contributed to throwing some people off of the mystery later, which in a good way. But,
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So, anything else you wanted to say about the police station before we go back outside?
Nothing coherent. No.
Okay.
Do you have
Do you have anything incoherent that you'd like to share?
Frustratingly so, because I just remember getting stuck in there and I don't remember why.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, so you can try to talk to the front desk sergeant all you want. He doesn't have anything to share, but you do hear his stomach growl when he talks about not having lunch. So this is a pretty well signposted, you know, puzzle. Hey, character's hungry. What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to feed him. And guess what? We also have a sandwich for a coupon, or a coupon for a sandwich, not the other one. And so we go back across the street, and there's Luigi, the sandwich guy. And we get a sandwich. I do just want to address one thing with the sandwich. There's a persistent myth that if you eat the sandwich, that results in a dead man walking scenario. Like, oh, you eat the sandwich and then you can't use it, so you can't progress in the game. But that is not true, because if you try to eat the sandwich, the narrator tells you that Laura is a vegetarian and she will not eat the sandwich.
And I definitely helped perpetrate or whatever that lie. Yeah, I definitely have spread that on this show before. I'm like, I said it as if it was fact and it happened to me. I was sure it did.
There is a convoluted way where you can like lose the coupon, and I think that's what people might be thinking of. So it looks like, you know, you lose the coupon and you don't have a sandwich. But if you do that, you can go right across the street and magically there's another newspaper there with another coupon. How did it get there? magic. And you can go back and just do it again. So that might be what people are. I could understand how you would like conflate that. Like I imagine someone conflated that at some point, and then that turned into or misunderstood. Like
Yeah, because people are pretty sure on that one too, which is funny.
It's very funny, but no, that is a total lie.
You hear that debunked here first.
So go ahead.
I just like that you can find the ticket again, because it's moments like that. You're like, hey, Sierra beta tested this one. Nice. Like somebody.
I actually think though that's a bug. If I had to say, I think that they just forgot to account for that.
Again,
I don't think it was
Sierra,
out of kindness.
right.
I think that was accidental. I think they just said something like, if you don't, like if you don't have the sandwich, and if you don't have the coupon, and the bum is gone, put the newspaper there.
Right. There's no you once had it and then got rid of it flag. Yeah.
If I had to guess, I haven't actually.
That definitely sounds like Sierra. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, we give the sandwich to the sergeant, and we find the big piece of information that we need to like progress in the game is that the password to the local speakeasy is Charleston, and we need that to get in. So there's that, and then we get in the taxi. And where should we take a taxi to next? Probably the docks. Let's talk about the docks.
Ooh, and Josh Mandel is the taxi driver. On our last podcast episode to follow up, we were questioning if it was. And I actually had asked him back then, and he's like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But then when we were doing the tribute for Roberta Vaughn stream and Josh was there, he did confirm absolutely that, yes, it was him as the taxi driver.
And all my brews out there knew it was him, because you have to be a Jew to be able to do a Bernie Sanders voice like that. He absolutely nails Bernie.
That's wonderful. He also plays Crodfaller, so your reporter pal. He's not really your pal, but he's your reporter pal. He's the only one who will actually talk to you in the newsroom. So, that is played by Josh Mandel. One thing I will give the game props for is that they did do some like really extensive research into the time period. And I say that because when you take taxi rides, the game will randomly pick a line for Rocco to say, and it'll mention something that happened in 1926, like Henry Ford's 40-hour work week, or laws that were passed, at the time.
Edutainment.
Exactly. So they did a lot of research for this game, which is really cool. So props to that. So so we go to the docks and we meet Steve Dorian. He comes up in his low voice, and we chat with him. You can chat with him for a while, but then when you tell him about the museum, I'm not sure if we mentioned this yet, but you talk about the museum and you mentioned that there's a museum fundraiser that night at 7 p.m. and you're gonna be there to sort of look into this crime. I'm not sure if you actually explained that to him or not, but you mentioned you're gonna be at the museum, and then he says, "Okay, cool. I gotta do some work," and then he turns around and goes away, which is a little frustrating. Like if you're going in the notebook in order. Because if you do that, that's the trigger for him to leave, is that you talk to him about the museum. And if you want to talk to him about other things, too bad. He's just going to go there. But anything else you wanted to say about the docks?
No, not
or
me.
Steve?
Right.
No, just that you can clearly see he's the hunk of the game. That's all. And as I said, it's not just the voice.
Yeah, it's from the very beginning, it's clear Laura likes him. If you look at him, like the very first time, there's something flirty there. Like, this guy's really attractive. Something along those lines. So like it's obvious from the very beginning that you're into him. So
I'm so far from getting being somebody who laughed. I don't know how to word that. That was so convoluted. I don't get his name. I don't get the joke.
Oh, so a stevedore is a dock worker.
Okay.
Oh, like a troubadour, but a stevedore.
Yeah, I want to double check this. Yeah.
Actually, what's a troubadour? I know that word, but I don't know.
He's
what
like
it means.
a musician, like a traveling musician.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah. So a stevedore is a person employed at a dock to load and unload cargo. So his name is Steve Dorian, the stevedore.
Right. Adorable.
That's one way of putting it. Yes.
Right.
It's a little.
yeah.
Out of all of them, I think that's like the most on the nose name out of the entire thing. You know, Crawdfall RT Rhubarb is just funny and silly.
My dad told me that in old movies, when they needed people to be looking like they're talking in the background, they would just be saying rhubarb, 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 rhubarb. That's what it made me think of his name.
And I've heard someone tell me a theory that might have been where it comes from, but I have no way of verifying
What's
that.
I don't get it. I don't get that either. Is there something else going on in Crawdfather's name that I don't know?
No, just like, maybe that's where it's from. Who knows? I think it's just a funny name.
Okay, all right. Just making sure it wasn't like if you mash them together, it means something else or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Somebody brought rhubarb to the office one day, and they were trying to name, and he's like, "Hey."
There's that. I should mention this just because it'll become important later. If you talk to Steve, you'll eventually hear a name that comes up a few times in Act 1, but you don't actually meet this person, and that is the Countess Lavinia Waldorf Carleton. That is a mouthful. It is very hard for me to say that. When I was making my video, I had to do retakes of that many times. It's the Waldorf Carleton. It just kind of like moves around in your mouth. But when you talk to Steve, he mentions that she met Carrington, the new president of the museum, in a taxi. So she picked him up in a taxi, and so they know each other somehow.
Somehow.
It does move around in your mouth. That's such a good way to say that.
Yeah, it's like you gotta. It's the O's and the R's and the L's. It's like they purposely made it to be hard to pronounce. But yeah, so we're on the docks there, and then let's go to our last street corner. There's a street corner with the Speakeasy, and then also Low Fats, which is a laundry place. And I'll let you two pick which one we go to. Choose your own adventure. Where do we go first?
Well, I think we're clearly going into the laundry place right now because we're standing right there. So
okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, so we're there, and I guess we should just mention real quick the boys that are there. There's some boys on this sidewalk killing ants.
Yeah. Let's talk about them, please.
Yeah, they're just funny. And as a side note, one of them is like my favorite character in Act 1, and his name is Tubby, and it's really easy to miss him entirely. And when you talk to him, the running gag is that his parents tell him he can't talk about anything. So if you ask him about people, they'll say, it's just worded funny. My parents say I can't talk about people I don't know about or that I haven't met. And if you ask him about like things, he'll say, my parents say I can't talk about anything.
That's adorable.
It's just the most ridiculous stuff,
And this is why we play these Sierra games. They put these little details in everywhere. And it's just personal touches from the people making the game often. Like, I'm sure a lot of that was not in the original script. This is exactly what he needs to say. It's a bit of fun and whimsy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I should point out that Act 1 especially is like full of stuff like that. Like even on this same screen, I'm going to paraphrase it here, but there's like some lights outside of Low Fats, and if you try to interrogate them, the game says something like, "These lights have been instructed not to talk to law enforcement or reporters," as if they're invoking their Fifth Amendment rights or something. And it's just like stuff like that all over the place. But yes, we have the boys here, and they're just well written. They're funny. They talk about murderizing the ants with their magnifying glass. They have a magnifying glass that they're murderizing the ants with, and we happen to have a baseball that we trade for the magnifying glass. And as a wannabe detective, that is an invaluable tool to have a magnifying glass.
Mm-hmm. I always like to take one with me. When I was growing up as a kid, I'd go antiquing with my dad, and he'd always bring a magnifying glass everywhere he went. So, of course, when I got the game, Dagger, I wanted my own. That was when I was like, oh, now I'm ready for my own magnifying glass.
Yes.
I'm a beat late on this, but in case the opportunity doesn't come again later, I'll just say that I'm glad, Anna, that you said that there's like the Sierra charm in it, because it is one of my favorite Sierra games, or maybe just games ever, and it's exactly because of this weird little underworld, and again, like the lookouts and the interacts and everything is accounted for, and like there's just, I don't know, different types of humor at times, I guess you'd say, and it's maybe like at the purest definition of like charming for an adventure game. It just has
very
this
dry
charm to it.
humor, which is also charming. I mean, it's a very British idea, right? The idea of dry humor and that little bit of a deadpan with it. And then I think that's what I like about it too.
Well, Matt, did Josh Mandel do any writing for this game? Because I feel like there's some. Okay.
Yeah, he did a lot of. He wrote along with Lorelei Shannon and I believe Bruce Balfour as well.
Yeah, right. Because Josh just has this. I don't know. I almost relate to him in a sense he has this observational humor that's often, I don't know, he'll like follow things down weird rabbit holes and give you 5 text windows on some, like I really like this irreverence that you can just pretty much tell it's Josh, and it's another reason why it's one of my favorite games, because again, the more you can look around, interact and touch and be rewarded for it, like the better, and that's what he was master of.
Yeah, I happen to have SCI Companion pulled up here, and because I wanted to get this line right. But on the on that screen that we're on right now, there are some dark stairs, and you think that you could like walk on them and go somewhere, or maybe get a death, right? But there's just things, things like if you try to touch them, it says the stairs are firmly attached to the floor.
I love that.
And if you try to talk to them, it says they don't say anything. They just sit there and stare.
Right.
Ba-dum-psh, right. So like
It's
the game is just
almost like a
full of
Space
that
Quest
stuff,
vibe.
It really does.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. Yes.
So yeah, we're in low fat and we're kind of getting an idea about everybody. We can sit here with our notebook and conversate in the laundromat for quite a while.
Yes. And I have to say this because I just found the line I butchered earlier. If you try to interrogate the lanterns, they say the lanterns stubbornly refuse to answer any questions without a subpoena.
Aww, I like that.
Anyway, sorry. I had to fight it. Anyway,
That's
so
okay. Those are the details we'd look for, exactly.
I tap into like the soul of where Josh probably was. Like I almost imagine it's like 2 a.m. and you've been describing stuff for hours, and you're just like, you know what, for this one, and you just it starts to get slightly unhinged as the evening wears on, for the better.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so yes, for sure. So we get the magnifying glass from the boys, and then we go in. And we talked to Low Fat for a bit, who's this Chinese owner of a Chinese laundromat. And one thing that I guess we sort of glossed over is that if you go to the museum, there's a big sign out front that says formal attire is required for the party tonight. And we'll talk about this maybe in a meta sense in a minute, but the whole almost sort of point of the act is to find a dress so that you can go to the party. Like that's that's the thing that you're trying to do, even if you don't realize it. And so in Low Fats, he basically tells you that he's got dresses, but without a laundry claim ticket, you're not going to get any.
Okay.
So.
Right, kind of like in Monkey Island, you have to have a laundry claim ticket to progress anywhere.
Yep, it's very much the Act 1 is very much like a series of lock and key puzzles. Like you need this thing to get this thing, and then this thing to get that thing.
Right, we mugged you, so now you need a dress.
Yeah. So we find that out. Okay, perfect, fine, whatever. So then we go across the street to the speakeasy, and we use the password Charleston to get in. And then the major things here are that there's a criminal informant named Ziggy here. Ziggy is sitting at the in the speakeasy, and we learned about him from Crodfaller earlier. But so he's the criminal informant, and he actually doesn't have all that much interesting to tell us. But he does mention that according to the rumor on the street, the dagger theft was an inside job. So
right.
we know that, and we learn he talks about an international con man who's also in town, but he can't tell us any more about that because who knows why. He says because the guy will kill me, but you would think he just wouldn't say anything about the con man if that Who knows? So there's that. And then there's also a women's lounge in the back. So we finally find a women's lounge across the city. And there's a flapper there who is voiced by Jane Jensen, which is hilarious to me because it's very clearly just Jane Jensen doing her Jane Jensen voice. And she's very horny and asks to be touched. The first thing she asks you is, "Are you looking for a good time?" Basically. And you get a little dialogue box that asks you how you want to respond, but both responses mean no, which kind of pisses me off. Just like, you're giving me a choice, but both these are just different ways of saying no.
Jane reads those lines like how a cat in heat rubs against a leg.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes, very much so. Yep. So, then the only thing really interesting we get out of the flapper is that she mentions that she's there to meet with the Countess. So I mentioned the Countess a few minutes ago. She's the one who met Carrington at the boat. So we keep hearing her name come up. The Countess, or the flapper is waiting for the Countess to show up. Sadly, that relationship never goes anywhere, and we don't hear anything about that ever again. But I don't quite know why that's in there. I have some guesses, but it's all just guesswork.
What is your guesses?
For that. I think it's because, so one of the things that it becomes a mystery later is whether the Countess killed her husband or not. So the Countess it turns out she was married to the former president of the museum. She was married to him for only 2 months, we find out, and then he died. And now, her big thing is that she wants the money from his will, and a bunch of characters suspect that she killed him, but it's never confirmed. So I wonder if they meant this as a hint to well, she's actually a lesbian, and so of course she would have married only for money, which is kind of a sexist implication, but the game is kind of sexist too. In a way that everything was in 1992. So that's my only guess as to why this is in here. And that's just wild speculation, though.
Well, even more so than it was sexist in 1992, but reflecting the sexism of the time that the game was made as well. So you've got it doubled up there.
Yeah. Anything else about the speakeasy we want to mention?
I suppose the song is iconic. Yeah. Is there any fun facts on it? Because the song would be, for the listeners, would be the "I Want to Marry an Archaeologist," which is I mean, it's almost iconic as in the limited realm of our little nerd sphere of adventure games, anyway.
Yeah. So the Archaeologist song is really fun. It's a great little song. It's fun. The only thing that I found out, and this was pointed out by AT Machine, who runs in adventure game circles, is that the melody and the lyrics are extremely similar to the song "I Want to Marry a Lighthouse Keeper" that was in A Clockwork Orange. And if you listen to the two side by side, I guess maybe it's possible that it was just coincidence, but it sounds so similar. The lyrics are similar, the melodies similar, the ideas in it are similar, and it's almost impossible to get away from the fact of you guys were lovingly copying this.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And I don't, unfortunately, I have no source to confirm that, from somebody who worked on the game. But go listen to "I Want to Marry a Lighthouse Keeper," and tell me that that's not the same song.
Definitely going to do that.
I don't think it escapes plausible deniability. It's just close.
Have you listened to it?
Yeah. And I mean, it just coupled with, I guess it's all the factors put together, right? As opposed to just any, you couldn't say, well, because, the marriage in the title, but it seems really...
the structure's the same, and the lyrics are very structurally similar, and yeah. The melody's very similar. I don't know.
Kind of like the what was it? The Davy Crockett for the Freddie Farkas. Based exactly.
That's
the
a
same.
great right.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. It's
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not like ripped off, that wouldn't be the right word, but it's like a parody.
A parody
almost.
of it. I was just thinking.
But not quite a parody. It's hard to find the right word.
Yeah.
An homage, perhaps.
It's an homage, yes. So there's that. I'm trying to move us along here. So after that, when the next time we get into the taxi's all dirty. There's a bunch of trash in it. And so it's an adventure game. Of course, we plunge our hand into the trash to find what we can. And we find, ta-da, a laundry claim ticket, which we then use to get a dress at Low Fats. And then we change into it. And then we get into the taxi. And then that's the end of Act 1 because we go off into the night.
Yeah, and we look amazing,
we dress.
too.
We do look amazing.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I do want the first thing I want to mention, just because I think it's fun, is that the gatekeeper is that dress, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to get the dress to end, and to get the dress, you need the claim ticket, and so you need the dirty taxi to show up, and there's surprisingly little you have to do to get that to happen. So you have to get the magnifying glass. Okay, cool. So at least the game forces you to get that, so you're not locked out of it later. You have to talk to Ziggy, but you don't actually have to interrogate him or anything. You can just like talk to him once and then leave. You don't have to like go through a whole big conversation or anything. Just talk to him, like click the, talk to him and then exit and then go. And then you have to go to the docks, but you don't have to talk to Steve. You just leave. You just leave. And so it's possible to never get introduced to Steve. He'll come up to you, hi. And then you never like technically learn his name, which becomes a plot hole later. And he doesn't learn that you're going to the museum.
Who's this guy?
He gets way creepier in that context.
Yeah. Spoilers. Like he shows up at the museum later because you told him that you would be there, and he's like crushing on you hard. But that doesn't make sense if you've never told him that.
And he's wearing like these like unmatching, like unkempt boots. It looks like he just like, totally knocked somebody out and took their body into the bushes and put their suit on.
Right. So I think that's interesting that, there is surprisingly little you actually have to do in the act. Like you've got to, learn the Charleston password. So because of that, you've got to do the sandwich nonsense. But you have to be able to get into the speakeasy. But then other than that, it's like, go to this place, leave, go to this place, leave, and like get a magnifying glass. And that's it. The one thing I wanted to ask you too was just how this sort of feels to you, because this is where I come from with it. It feels very much like a traditional sort of Sierra game, right? Where it's just like a normal go talk to people, go pick things up. And so it really it feels like you're a tourist wandering around New York pretty much and chatting with people. And one of the things that I found difficult to balance in the video that I was making is to kind of keep your eyes on the prize, which is that this is a murder mystery game. Yeah. And I think it's really easy to forget that in the middle of this, which is kind of cool on the one hand for like building setting, but on the other hand, it's almost like I'm not quite sure how well it works, because it's really easy to forget what kind of a game you're playing. It's like, are we going to be solving a mystery anytime soon? Or are we just going to be asking people about a baseball? Like, what are we doing here? Right. And like getting roast beef or getting corned beef sandwiches. And the rest of the game is just so very different from this too.
Right. Well, I mean, you're constantly kind of wondering what is going to matter later. And for me personally, like, I do really well with games and movies and shows where you focus on one character and very slowly get to know the cast. But with this game, like, there were so many characters and so many details, and not only are you solving the puzzles, but they're like, you need to think like a reporter and actually put together a case, and you're under a lot of pressure. And at least when you play it the first time and you don't realize you're getting grilled at the end, I don't think it was really easy for me to understand how much you had to pay attention. But I guess to me, it's like a living, breathing murder mystery stage play that you're participating in.
Yeah, I would say that it's... I accept the premise of like you build up to it and you set it up. I was just thinking maybe it's not that different than Clue, the movie, even though Clue does immediately start out in the house, which is a huge advantage to get you in the mood, let's say. But, you spend a good, I would just guess, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes as people are arriving and everybody's just schmoozing. There's no... It almost has an Act 1 sort of vibe. It's just like the setup and learning the colorful characters and such. And then it's like in Clue, as soon as the door's shut, then all of a sudden it starts to feel like a murder mystery. And then I guess you could say with Ra, it's like the same thing. I guess as soon as the museum door shut, you're like, okay, now we're in it. Basically, it's yeah. So I think it works in that sense.
Which I agree with, though. I think I would also argue that Clue does it a bit better, because in Clue you have the one central location and characters like arrive one by one,
right?
And so you kind of get to know them. And in this, it's like you actually you never speak to Crodfaller again, and you never speak to Lofat again, and there's like a bunch of characters that just don't matter ever
that's
again.
That's a very good point, right?
Right. And so it does kind of it feels like you're just kind of puttering around New York, like asking people how their day is going. Like,
right.
In some cases you literally do. Like, how's your year going? You can ask people about 1926.
Right.
And look at that. And so it's, I feel like it's multifaceted, because it does, I think, do a good job of easing you into the world, but it almost makes it too open. And so it's kind of jarring when the rest of the game, you're just trapped inside this museum. Though on the other hand, that creates a nice contrast. I don't know. There's a lot going on there, but I feel like it's just like the game itself. There's a lot there that's interesting, but there's a lot there that's also, I don't know, it's a little bit rough around the edges, because it's really easy to forget that you're playing a mystery game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does become like kind of a social saunter, for just like holding a cocktail, walking around the room for a lot of the game, or various different rooms. And an unfair thing to do would be to retroactively design the game for them.
Right.
But for the hell of it, I'm going to anyway, and just say that you bring up a good point, that the characters in the Act 1, you don't see them again. And it's also combine that with the fact that it's quite overwhelming, the amount of characters that you're given at once when you are locked in the museum. And it was hard for me every time I play it to really have a firm grasp on any one character. Or maybe, like, I don't know, like Tut always stands out. I mean, they all have really strong personalities, so I can't say, like, because of so-and-so's accent or whatever, because they're all pretty, heavy-handed. But for some reason, like, I'll latch on to one or two, and, like, the other ones remain vague in the background. And so anyway, it might have been nice if we could have met like two of them outside of the museum first, like bumped into them at Lofats maybe, or some sort of way to, like, start keeping track of the players that we're going to be needing to know.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we do meet Ziggy, and we do meet Detective O'Reilly, who do come back later. But those, I'm trying to double check my memory here, and Steve. But we don't meet Crodfaller again, and we don't meet Lofat again.
Right.
And we don't meet the Flapper again, which is a tragedy.
It is. It is.
So, yeah. So there's that. You did ask me, I'm going to go through this briefly, because I know this is going to be a long episode anyway. One thing that I did with all of the historical references is try to take the game seriously, and narrow the date of when the game takes place.
Yeah.
And try to figure that out. So there's this entry in the notebook that's 1926, and you can ask people about how their year is going. And then there's a lot of just historical references to things. So real briefly, without going into every little piece of evidence, if you look at the taxi license of the taxi that drives in the game, Rocco renewed his taxi license on September 5th, 1926. So we know it has to be after that. And then when we talk to Ziggy about how his year's going, he talks about seeing a fight between two boxers. And that fight took place on September 23rd. So it has to be after September 23rd. Okay. And then Steve says that he thinks the Cardinals are going to win the World Series. Right. And so the World Series that year took place between October 2nd and October 10th. So, like, the latest it could possibly take place is the morning of October 10th. It was a 7-game series. So, like, they were playing the last game of the series that night. So you have basically that 2-week window, and it was cool to narrow that down. Sometime between September 24th and October 10th of 1926. Though, ironically, on my way home from work today, I was thinking about something, and I narrowed it down even further, if this counts as evidence. So Steve, when you talk to him and you're talking to him about the museum, it says, "Isn't the museum closed today?" Right, because he's confused as to why you're going to the party. Because he's like, "Isn't it closed?" And Laura's like, "Yeah, it's closed today, but but there's a special party tonight." Well, in the game box, there's a little flyer for the museum. You get all the neat feelies, in the boxes, as you do. And on the back of that flyer, it has the museum schedule, and the museum is only closed on Sundays. So if you're allowed to use things from the box, we could basically narrow it down to one of 3 different days. Man, so that period of September 24th through October 10th, but only on the Sundays.
Right, only of the Sundays between those 2 dates. Brilliant.
Oh, I love these details, man.
So that's assuming that they were even trying to make it consistent. I don't think that they were, but we got to work with what we've got, man.
Okay, well, first of all, just very well done. That's quintessential. That's like classic OneShortEye stuff right there. That had to be said. Okay, so I guess that brings us to Act 2, Suspects on Parade. I suppose we've got the dress on. We're at the Lion Decker for an evening gala.
This was a hard part of the game for me, because you really need to make sure to get every single conversation, or you simply can't progress. And I got stuck even on my last playthrough for our podcast episode in this act for forever.
Yeah, this one is a slog. So for people, just as a big overview, you go to this party and you talk to people for a very long time. So you have all of your almost all of your characters at this party. They're mingling. Okay, cool. We can interrogate them, figure out who they are, what they're about, all that good stuff. But there's like a few dozen things in the notebook that you could talk to them about, and there's conversations for each of those things. And if you sit there and go through everything, it's like over an hour of just dialogue, and it's overwhelming. Like, it's a cool idea, I think.
Yeah.
But it's it's way too much. It's way too much. So I don't know if we want to go through the characters real quick. Where do you want to go with this?
This might be a time, at least we can just mention kind of who's in the room with us here. So
yeah, let's do that. So we meet Wolf Heimlich, who's the security guard. He greets us on the outside, and we need to show our press credentials to get in. So he's there. How would you describe Wolf?
Technically not a Nazi, but
yes. Yeah, he speaks with a German accent. He probably fought in World War I for the Germans.
He walks with oddly stiff legs. He really likes to throw those legs out there.
And he's super big on interrogation. So
he's a caricature of a Nazi. Is what it is.
He is.
And that's the joke. So we meet him. We meet.
In their defense, it's a little funny. It's kind of funny.
Yeah,
Sorry, as the Jew, I have to be the one that says it for all of us. He's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's played for laughs, and it's. I mean, it's hard to explain without you seeing it. But his dialogue actually is hilarious because it's so over the top. Because it's so over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
In his predilection for violence. Basically. So he's there. We also have, we meet, I'm just going to kind of go in my head. So the Detective O'Reilly is there, so we can talk to him some more. Dr. Olympia Miklos is there. She's the museum curator, and she is supposed to be Greek. Though the accent is kind of, does it seem like a Greek accent to you guys? I'm not really
No, it
sure.
doesn't.
It didn't occur to me to me as more like, the evil genius, but as a female kind of an accent.
Yeah.
Almost has like a Transylvania sort of like.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree, but she's supposed to be Greek. And she's my favorite character because she's obsessed with death and will bring up death just as often as she can, like all over the place. So she's there.
Makes you appreciate. Makes you appreciate the time too, because it's like, yeah, I mean, there was technically internet, but in the middle of Course Gold, it's like, how did they find a Greek accent to reference?
Yeah, right.
Somebody's probably like, yeah, it sounds like that with the rolling R's. Yeah, do that. Do a lot of that.
Just go for it. Yeah,
roll every R for a long time.
Yep. So she's there. Tut Smith is there, and if you don't recall, Tut Smith was the representative from the Cairo Museum who wants to return the dagger to Egypt. Of course, the dagger is stolen by now, so they can't really do that, but he's still there. For some reason, I guess, as I think about that, like, why is he even there? Because the dagger's missing. Maybe he thinks that it could be recovered and taken back, but whatever. Ziggy is there, so that's the criminal informant from the speakeasy. It's a lot of characters.
Yeah.
Pippin Carter is there, and if you recall from the intro, Pippin Carter is the archaeologist who found the Dagger of Amon Ra, and he is not happy about his dagger being stolen. They had actually made an entire Egyptian wing exhibit for him to be like in charge of. He's in charge of the Egyptian stuff at the museum, so he's got a new position there. And the dagger was like the centerpiece of the whole thing, and now it's been stolen, which is no good. So you have him. You have Ramses Najir, who is the museum's accountant, and he is voiced by Richard Aronson, who listeners may better know as Cedric the Owl. He was the voice of Cedric. And you can kind of hear a little bit of Cedric in Ramses. The character also has a lisp for some reason.
For some reason.
And I actually don't think he's a very interesting character. He doesn't really do anything, and his responses aren't funny. And there's like a role that he plays later, but as a character, he's like not, you know what I mean? He's just kind of there. And then we also have Yvette. Yvette is the museum's secretary. Oh, I want to talk about her in more depth, but so actually before we get to her, Carrington is also there. He is the new president of the museum who just came over from England. Is everybody following along?
Yes.
And then Yvette is there. She's the secretary. She is French. She is written with a French accent. It is written out in a French accent, which makes it kind of hard to read. And her running gag is that she sleeps with everybody.
Right.
Like literally, she has sex with everybody, and that's it. That's her character.
I love that. Her running gag is that she's a hoa.
Yep. And she's proud of it, and it's fine. And nobody really, well, with the exception of like one person, nobody really judges her actually, which is interesting. And Tut Smith actually says, that she's very beautiful and tells Laura to be more like her. So you could be more feminine, basically.
Yeah.
To which Laura gives back her sass. But so she's there, and then finally the Countess is there. And what to say about the Countess? We kind of learn a little bit more that her husband died. And we kind of catch her in a couple of lies, actually. The first is that we ask her how her year's going, and it's kind of hard to make out in the voice acting, but in the written dialogue, you can see that she starts to say, yeah, my year was great, but she has to correct herself and say, oh, no, it was horrible, my husband died. And then when you ask her about Carrington, she says that, like, she doesn't know him, but we know from Steve Dorian that she met him at the docks, so what's up with that? And then she kind of pulls back a little and says something like, oh, yeah, I guess I did meet with him, because our families knew each other from the time of the War of the Roses. It's just some bullshit. And so there's that. So who do we want to talk about, if anybody?
Well, I mean, again, I like Dr. Olympia. What is it, Miklos? Is that how you pronounce her name?
Miklos is how most of the characters say it. I think one of them or two of them pronounces it Miklos. I'm not sure. How you pronounce these characters' names kind of changes.
I want to see her like out on a night on the town, not necessarily holed up in an office somewhere, but I mean like hair down, like hot party dress on, out at the club, like dancing for the night. That's how I want to see her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's fun.
Yeah, she's a freak.
Yeah, totally a freak. She'd have like a snake around her like shoulders and everything. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
she,
yeah.
She belonged in like Phantasmagoria too. She would have fit right in.
Yeah,
there.
oh yeah. Yeah. Anything else we want to talk about these characters? We talked to them for a while. We get some clues, and maybe we can come back to some of those clues later. But like, I don't want to sit here forever and just talk about what they say.
Yeah. No, that's good. It's just essentially you have to talk and listen in, and then there's a great pose of Laura with her hand up in this. It's a very iconic pose that's come
dainty.
straight from this part of the game.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we should mention that because there's talking to people, and then there's eavesdropping on conversations. So this actually is a little frustrating to me, game design wise, because what happens is that these characters are kind of in groups at the party, and then you have to walk behind them. And then sometimes, but not always, this little cutscene will come up and you'll be like, like you said, this great pose of Laura with her hand up to her ear, listening in on these conversations, and you learn more about the characters. But there are 14 conversations that you have to listen to. And then to be technical about it, you don't have to talk to anybody to get the game to progress, but you do have to listen to the eavesdropping conversations in order for the game to move on. And there's a ton of them. So there's talking, if you want to talk to people, because why wouldn't you? You'd think you'd have to talk to them. You don't actually have to, but to figure stuff out, you do that. You do that for like an hour, and then for another like 20 to 30 minutes, you listen to more like eavesdropping conversations. It's just ridiculous. So you listen to those. Anything you want to say about those?
I guess not. Essentially, it's eavesdropping, listening. It's the only thing, just I guess, wildly off topic in a sense, is that popped in my head is I always try to, I don't know, I champion Larbo and Gabriel as like, this maybe my favorite side of Sierra storytelling wise, and then it just dawned on me that they're both like Louisiana Creole.
Yeah.
What's going on there? Like, is there somebody from Sierra is that a coincidence? I guess.
Probably.
Yeah.
But
right.
now that. Yeah.
Jane didn't. Yeah. Okay.
No. Yeah. Jane didn't have anything to do with this game. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, yeah. It seems like a coincidence.
Yeah. Okay. But no. Yeah. So sorry. So yeah. We can either talk to him or we can eavesdrop and we just
Well, to be clear, you have to eavesdrop on them.
Right. Yeah.
It is required. You can skip past the conversations, but you do have to trigger them all. And you just have to sort of like stumble into them too, which is weird. I guess that's my point of it, is that there's no like thing to tell you that you can do it. You just have to kind of wander around until it randomly happens, and then you're like, why did that happen? And then you sort of slowly figure out that, oh, it's when I walk behind people sometimes, but not always.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because the NPCs are they have a mind of their own in this game, don't they?
Yes. Yeah, and they move around like after each eavesdropping conversation, they switch positions and places depending on who's talking to who. So, so there's that. And then we go into the gift shop. This is something you have to do, and there are a bunch of daggers in the gift shop, and they all say "Made in Pittsburgh" stamped on them. They are replica Dagger of Amon Ra daggers, right? And they're gift shop souvenirs. Except you magnify one of them, and it doesn't have "Made in Pittsburgh" stamped on it. So it's like, what's going on here? And that magically is the cue for Wolfheimlich to come in and bust you for being in there and kick you out. This is another like weird pixel hunt, which is very Sierra, but it's like there's like 12 daggers or something. And you have to click on the one exact one that's like a couple from the top. It's a requirement. You have to do it to progress time, and I don't like that. It just seems random.
Remind me why it's that specific one we have to click on.
That is the only one that does not have "Made in Pittsburgh" stamped on it, and you're supposed to think that it is the real Dagger of Amon Ra.
Right.
And I think in the game it is the real Dagger of Amon Ra, which to me doesn't make any sense. But I can't think of any other explanation. Like why else would looking at that one dagger in particular trigger a game event? You know?
Yeah.
Now I know I'm sort of like metagaming here, you know.
Yeah.
But all the others say made in Pittsburgh on them. This one does not. And
Even
so
though you can't do much with it once you have it, really.
Right. But so like what I don't understand, like, so without getting into who stole it yet, I don't understand the logic. Like you fake stealing it and then you put it in the gift shop, but then like what if someone comes in and buys it? Mm-hmm. But then if that's not the actual dagger, it's just a red herring that means nothing. I'm at a loss.
Yeah, I've never considered it anything but the real dagger, especially like you said, as a time advancement, because you assume that that marks a significant moment in the game.
Yeah. So, I do not understand in the plot of the game why the dagger is there.
Right.
Which is fitting in the sense that this game has very little dagger in it, considering the title. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We'll talk more about that in Act 3, but yes, that is a huge bone of perhaps contention, if you want to call it that. Yeah. But anyway, so you do that, and so this is now the trigger. If you now come to the center of the party, Steve, there's a cut scene with Steve. He comes in and he talks to Laura and professes his love, and he explains how he's an art student and he couldn't afford the proper shoes. That's why he has these muddy, crappy work boots, and they share a kiss.
Which is hilarious if you've never talked with him.
Right, very much so, because it makes no sense. These characters don't actually know each other, and yeah, because it is possible to just go to the docks and leave and have never spoken to Steve at all. But most people will have talked to him, so...
Yeah, that's fair. And essentially what's happening is you're realizing that something might not be going as we would expect. But at this point, we're not on lockdown or anything, are we?
No, you can still leave out the front of the museum, but there is no taxi out front, so you can't go back to New York. So you're sort of on lockdown. Like you can leave, you can go to the front of the museum, but you can't go anywhere else because there's no taxi. So there's that. Let's just say it here before we move on from this part about the interrogation. One of the things I find interesting is that it's very easy to get locked out of dialogue in this game. So remember, you have this notebook, and in order to ask people about things and people, you have to have an entry in the notebook. So ostensibly, you're supposed to learn about people, and then their name goes in the notebook, and now we can ask about people. But to give an example, Dr. Miklos, all of our favorite characters here, the only way to get her in the notebook is if you ask Low Fat about the museum in Act 1. So you ask him about the museum, and he's like, oh, I know some people who work there, and he tells you about a few of them. If you don't do that, then Miklos' name never goes in the notebook, and you can never ask anybody about her.
Wow.
Ever.
Wow,
Like,
that's
even
hardcore.
Even if you meet her, right? The same goes for Ramses Najir, even though he's not a very interesting character. You have to ask Ziggy about Egyptology in the Speakeasy in Act 1. If you ask him about it in Act 2, doesn't count, doesn't matter. It's actually different dialogue. You have to ask him about that to get Ramses' name in the notebook, and if you don't do that in Act 1, you can never ask anybody about Ramses.
Wow.
and then for the Countess, you can either talk to the flapper or you ask Steve about Carrington, because then Steve will tell you the story about how Carrington and how the Countess picked up Carrington in the taxi. But if you don't do either of those, you can't get the Countess's name, even if she tells it to you. Even when she says, hi, I'm the Countess, it does not go into your notebook.
Wow, that's wild.
You just said, it's at the wrong place and the wrong time. You can't have it.
Yep, and so that's
Brutal.
just weird to me. It's...
Yeah.
It just seems like there's so many moving parts in this game. I'm not surprised little details were missed.
Yes, absolutely. And then there's a big one later, but I'll tell you one more right now. So if you just go straight over to Dr. Tut Smith and chat with him, the first thing that Laura says is, you must be Dr. Patashep Tut Smith. Nice gold ankh you're wearing, because he's wearing this gold ankh.
Right.
But you can say that even if no one has mentioned his name and you don't know his name and you've never heard it. and it's like, what are we doing here? And it's bizarre. And there's not enough time in this podcast to go through all of those, but there's just a ton of little narrative contradictions in the party dialogue where it's like you ask this character and then they'll tell you about something and then Laura will say something and you're like, how does Laura know this? Because they assume that you would talk to some other character first. Mm-hmm. And it's just it's very, the way I put it is that it's very ambitious, and so I give them credit for it for even like trying something like this, but it's so ambitious that all this little, like, just the little details fall into the cracks. And like Paul, having made a game, I'm sure you can attest to like all the little things that you didn't, account for in your game and how stuff happened, and you're like, oh, what if the player did this? That didn't even occur to me, and that's normal. And imagine having 7-8 characters here, and they all have intersecting conversations.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's unbelievably easy to get stuck through development as you're playtesting your own development. It's really remarkably easy to do the same order of operations every time. You just kind of get used to running through the act or whatever, like this one certain way. And it's like, if you always follow that exact path, then you'll never see anything going wrong, like the notebook thing. Mm-hmm. And then you just give it to one other person. Like the first thing that Anna does is go left when I would go right. Yeah. and it's just, a cascade of problems come up. And it's like, to this day, after, a good 5 years of doing this now, I'm just like, man, I try really hard to not do everything in the same order, but like you almost can't help it. You just fall back into this. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for that reason, I don't want it to come across like throughout this entire discussion that we're being overly harsh. It's just, I think that the game is really super ambitious. And if I'm going to point any fingers, I'm going to say they weren't given enough time to really polish it.
Right.
Yes, that's a great call. Actually, we should remember that for all episodes going forward. If we ever catch ourselves being harsh and it's Sierra, just be like, Ken Christmas, man.
Yeah.
It's true. Like, honestly, I think we should all think about how miraculous it is that a game with this many threads actually holds together as well as it does.
Mm-hmm. Which in some cases it falls completely apart, but yes, that you can play it and have it be at least somewhat coherent. So anyway, there's one more contradiction I'll come to after we go to this ending thing. But so after Steve, that cutscene, then we can go wander in part of the rest of the museum. Part of it's cut off because Wolf tells us we can't go in there for like plot reasons. But we can go through other areas, and the exhibit that's really important is the Egyptian exhibit. And so we can kind of investigate and see where the dagger was. There's this glass case, and the dagger's gone and missing. But if we go further, there's a sarcophagus, and there's blood on the floor in front of it.
Ooh.
Interesting.
How suspicious.
Yeah. And one detail, for people who have played the game might not know this, if you walk back and forth on that screen, the pool of blood slowly gets bigger, which I think is a cool detail, because it's like a little, hey, if you hadn't noticed, look over here. But also, like, realistically, the blood is like coming out of the sarcophagus.
I like that detail a lot.
So I think that's really cool. But before we even get in there, in front of the sarcophagus, we've got a pool of blood. And in the pool of blood, there's 2 clues to keep in mind. There's an Ankh in the pool of blood. It's like a neck of a little Egyptian symbol, and it has the initials PS on the back of it. Which, spoilers, it's Patasheptut Smith's dialogue. It's Dr. Smith's Ankh, who he had around. You can see him wearing it at the party. It's his. And then there is a dainty woman's shoe print. So one of the women at the party stepped in the blood. Okay. Mm-hmm. So then we open up the sarcophagus, and I've been talking for a while. Do one of you want to explain what we find?
Well, I mean, it's not a happy sight. All of a sudden, you're snuggling up with a dead body that you can click all sorts of things on.
Yeah, so it's Dr. Pippin Carter, the man who found the dagger originally and brought it over from Egypt. He has been stabbed in the heart with a gift shop dagger. You can examine the dagger, and it says "Made in Pittsburgh" on it. But you can poke him. You can fight. It's played for laughs too. You can actually. He's wearing this flower on his tuxedo, and you can find out that it's one of those gag flowers that you can like push and like the water squirts out of it, which is just silly. There's a lot of dry humor with it too. You look at the blood and the narrator says something like, the fluid coming out of his chest looks like blood. This may explain his pale appearance.
Right.
So there's things like that. But then the big clue that we find in there, there's actually a few clues. One is that there's a stain on his lapel, and it's a grape juice stain. I guess we glossed over that. I guess I'll spoil that in a second. But fine, I'll spoil it now. So one thing that we learned from talking to people is that Detective O'Reilly loves grapes. Mm-hmm. He mentions it himself. One of the other characters mentions that he loves grapes, and so that's meant to be a clue that maybe Detective O'Reilly was involved in this, right? So there's a grape juice stain there, but then there's also a notepad that you can take, and it has an imprint of some writing on it, but you can't read it yet. So those are the things that are there. You can also pick up the Ankh in the pool of blood, and then once you exit that. The act is over. So, thoughts?
It must have been offensive to Carter to get stabbed by the novelty ripoff dagger.
Not the real one.
Yeah.
If he's gonna go out that way,
right?
May as well do that. Yeah.
Well, it's when you really realize that stuff's going down, like the game really kicks in, because you're kind of detached from the original death because you're not there and it's just a guy stuffed in a suitcase. But now you're there, you're actually finding it. And all of a sudden you realize like you might even potentially be a suspect.
Yes, because you might, Detective O'Reilly doesn't know that you are not the killer because you were found at the crime scene. Mm-hmm. So maybe you did it. But we have all those clues. One that indicates Tut Smith, one that indicates, possibly one of the women because of the shoe print. And then also the grape juice stain that is on the lapel there. So lots of different things. But the thing I wanted to come back to was, as far as narrative inconsistencies, in the floppy version, and I love this so much, during the party when you're talking to people, if you ask Yvette about Tut Smith, Laura will ask if it's possible that he might have killed Carter before Carter's dead. Like they flipped a switch basically. You're supposed to be able to ask her about that afterwards. Do you think that Tut killed Carter when Carter's still alive? Thankfully they fixed that for the CD version. But what a spoiler!
Just a bit.
So and Anna, as you mentioned. It's good that finally this death happens, right? But it's how to put it. It does get, I think, a little frustrating when you're playing this, and even on replays where you're like, I just want to get to the murder. I just want to get to that because there's just all this talking, and it's just think about it in terms of a normal mystery story. Like if you were watching a Columbo, episode. And like the first 20 minutes was just him talking to people, and then the murder happened around like the halfway point of the episode. That's not how mysteries work. The murder happens in like the first 30 seconds,
right?
To get your attention.
It does make you kind of. You end up thinking back over the conversations you've just had and wondering what is important now that you found the dead body. Like it kind of makes you want to re-listen. It reframes the game a little bit in that moment.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it sets like necessary stakes to be invested. So I guess until you have those stakes, it's a little harder. There's a lot of superhero movies, I think, that to their detriment do the same thing. Where like in Venom, like you don't see Venom for like 49 minutes, and it's like, well, I did come to see Venom though. Like, if we could get on with the venoming, that would be fantastic. Which there's a similar feeling here. But
like a rock star getting up on stage and they haven't performed the song everybody's waiting for yet because they're busy sharing their country songs with you that they've been working on.
That sounded hyper specific. Okay, so O'Reilly storms in and questions everybody. Act 2 ends, and that brings us to Act 3 on the cutting edge.
Yes. So yeah, the suspects get interrogated by O'Reilly. We don't actually get to hear those, but we see it happening. We meet one more character, which is Ernie Leach. Ernie is the maintenance guy in the building,
Right.
and he tells us that he's locked the museum. I guess at the order of O'Reilly. I don't think it actually says, but he's locked the museum, and so we can't get out. Poor us. Though I guess as I mentioned, there's no taxi outside, so I guess it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter anyway, does it? If we could get outside the museum, we can't go anywhere.
Sorry, I'm using SierraPlanet.net for a little visual list of characters, and for Ernie Leach it says the janitor of the museum. He's dark-haired.
Preserved person.
Like, yeah, I mean, just say it. He's the black guy. Why?
He's black. Yeah,
They're like, his hair is dark. Like,
Yes.
oh, okay, that's
No,
super.
Yep, he's black. Thankfully, he's not stereotyped.
Yes, yeah.
Like
we don't get the thing, the song
don't-
of the South black guy that we saw in
Right.
Police Quest. Yeah.
So we find him, and then we're kind of off on our own to investigate and find stuff. And one thing I guess I want to mention is that the characters now start wandering around, like they actually start walking from screen to screen. If you want to catch them and talk to them about the murder that just happened or anything else, really. And I think it's cool, but also frustrating. It's cool because it's this neat little mechanic that you really didn't see much, right? Like, and you could imagine the conversation they had in designing that. Like, well, it's a museum, and are the characters just going to stay still the whole time? That seems boring. Let's have them move around, and if we're going to have them move around, let's have them actually move around and keep track of where they are, and not just magically appear, in one room or another. But it's frustrating because you can never find the characters that you want. Like, if you want to talk to a certain character, it's like, I wonder where they are. And then you have to go track them down. And then they don't stop once you find them when you talk to them. So you'll ask them a question, and they'll walk a few steps towards the exit. And you ask them another question, and they walk a few steps. And eventually they'll leave the screen, and you have to go chase after them. So... It's kind of frustrating. I don't know what your experience of that was like. I'm curious.
It's not good for your self-esteem. The other person's trying to back out of the conversation the whole time. Like, geez, man.
Yeah, no, that's about what it feels like, doesn't it? You're just like, I'm taking a hit right now.
So there that just generally speaking. So when you talk to people, it's kind of like, it's kind of at random, really. But I have, like, in my notes in order that I normally play it, and if you want to jump in or change anything, just let me know, but I'll kind of walk through it. First thing, just to get it out of the way, is that Dr. Carter, his corpse is gone from the sarcophagus, supposedly removed by the coroner. Mm-hmm. But if you investigate in the armor room, there's an armor hall with suits of armor in them. His body has been stuffed into one of the suits of armor. You can open up the helmet and you see his dead face, and you can look at it and confirm, yes, that's Dr. Carter. He's been stuffed into the suit of armor. And you can never tell anybody this, and you can never ask anybody this, and nobody mentions it again. It's just a weird thing that happens.
It is really, really odd, yeah. Because, I guess, what's the game trying to do here? Is it O'Reilly?
I don't know. I know that's my thing. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense, and nobody comments on it, and it doesn't matter for anything. It makes no difference to anything. It's just this weird sort of funny thing. I almost think it's an Easter egg, really, kind of, maybe. I don't know.
Is it so we know who tells us about the coroner? Is that O'Reilly? Like, is it so we know that O'Reilly's lying? I guess?
He claims it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's the one who tells us that it was the coroner, so maybe that was the intention. But it's just so silly and so off the wall that I'm like, is that really it? I just don't know. That's why I mentioned this first, because it doesn't go anywhere. You can't do anything with it. It doesn't do anything.
It's actually harder to believe than the porcupine death for me. Like, that somebody would be able to, like, manhandle a body into a suit of armor in the amount of time. The whole.
Yeah, and then to do that and not get noticed,
Right.
and then to have it actually be freestanding,
Right.
and
The stench, like just the I don't know, the whole.
And it's not like the blood would stop oozing out of the wound.
Right, and I mean,
So it just doesn't make any sense. So
I mean, he probably shit himself when he died, so there's that.
Yeah,
there's
there's
just a lot of.
He did. Oh, we didn't mention that. He does piss himself when he dies, and you can verify that. You can look at his crotch.
God, see?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and find urine there.
What do they call it? Evacuating the bowels, I guess.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
From my experience working in facilities, that would be the case.
So anyway, let's just ignore that plot point.
Yeah. Check.
And start going around. So we go to the Masters Gallery, which is a hall of paintings, which is pretty cool. And actually, as a side note, a lot of the paintings are attributed to names that are like people who worked on the game. Like I can't think any off the top of my head, but like they'll take the name of one of the artists and then like make it sound Italian or something, and it's and that's who painted it. And the title of one of the paintings is "Art is Work," and it's attributed to one of the artists, right? So there's little Easter eggs in there, but the important plot point is that if you examine the paintings, there's wet paint on them. Like the paint is wet; it's not dry. You can smear it with your finger. You can like look at it with your magnifying glass, and that's interesting, right?
Mm-hmm. It is. Is it? Do they reference erroneous Bosch in this game?
Yes. So there is. One of the big paintings that we get an inventory item from later
With the glint. Okay.
With the glint, yes. So it's a reference to Hieronymus Bosch.
Hieronymus.
But the game calls it Anonymous Bosch as a joke.
Nice. Okay.
But it's done in the style of Hieronymus
Right.
Bosch.
Love that.
The
reference.
old masters, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So there's wet paint in there. That's interesting. Continuing on, what else could we talk about? Okay, so we come to a room that has the Thinker in the middle of it, and that'll become later, but like the Thinker statue. All right. We end up copying the hieroglyphic alphabet from Olympia's office. We get to Olympia's office. It's this really like funky place full of dead stuff. There's like stuffed rats and cockroaches that are like pinned on the wall, and there's also Barney, which is her pet cobra. So all this pleasant stuff. And so we find half of the Rosetta Stone in her office, and actually half of the Rosetta Stone in the Egyptian gallery. And so we
Right.
now have the Egyptian alphabet.
Right. So now we get like the riddle answers and stuff.
Yeah, and so there's on the blackboard in Olympia's office, there's a whole bunch of hieroglyphs. Did either of you bother translating that when you were kids? If you remember.
Gosh. I'd like to say that I absolutely went to the library and figured it all out, but I don't know that that's the truth. But I really wish that I did.
Yeah, because you can with the hieroglyphic alphabet in your notebook, you can go and translate it. But it's annoying because it doesn't automatically do it for you. You have to like write it all down. So you either have to like draw out what the hieroglyphs are and then reference your notebook. Like it doesn't give you a split screen or anything where here's the
Right.
translation and here's the board. It's like you have to write something down, whether it's one way or the other.
I probably did that. I always loved doing the decoding and the puzzles and the codes and that as a kid. And I had my own representation of characters. I would do them for any of the games, even Quest for Glory and all the other ones. So I probably did.
Yeah, I surprisingly don't remember doing it, but I must have.
I must have,
The only way forward, sort of thing.
I might have. I probably did. But it's funny because it's optional. You don't have to do it. It gives you a hint to a riddle later, but you don't have to solve it. Like you can just answer the riddle.
Right.
So that's sort of fun. And then what else do we do? We're kind of cruising along here because a lot happens in Act 3.
Yeah.
So slow me down if you want to. But then we go into Yvette's office, and one clue that we find is there's some carbon paper in a wastebasket. And we hold that up to the light, and we learn that a character named Big Al, who's not in the game, he's just somebody we don't know, he offers Ernie, the maintenance guy, the janitor, a fencing job. And so, okay, what's he involved with? Is something shady here? What's going on? So we get a little clue as to that. And then I do want to spend some time in Carrington's office because we can go to Yvette's office to Carrington's office. Carrington, again, is the new president of the museum. He's only been there like a week. And this is following the death of the previous president, who was Sterling Carlton, who was also married to the Countess, this character we keep hearing about. A lot of characters.
Oh, yeah. And Carrington's definitely a character. There's just something about this guy.
Yes. And so there's a few things. One is that on Carrington's desk, there's a calendar that says that there's a meeting with the Countess and Ziggy in the armor room later at night. Right, so it's like, okay, well, we'll make a mental note for that. There's a clock that goes throughout the night that like chimes and tells you. So like, okay, we probably should show up for that and see what that's about. Then we also find some charcoal. It's one of those silly inventory puzzles, and we do the, I guess the tropey thing of rubbing the charcoal or the graphite on the Pippin's notepad to see what it said. You know, the thing where there's an imprint of writing and we got to see what it actually said. Well, we get in mystery stories, you get a pencil or you get, in this case, some charcoal and you reveal it. And the important things are that Pippin had a meeting with Yvette in the Egyptian room at 8:00, and that was the exact place and time of his death. Okay. So we have a clue that Yvette was supposed to meet Carter at the time and place that he died. So
right.
How did she see anything? Is she involved? What's going on there? And
right, because she's the kind of girl that would know all those little details, just somehow.
You would think. And then the other thing on the notepad is that that Pippin was supposed to have a meeting with Tut Smith to like discuss the dagger, I guess, is what it was, even though the dagger's whatever. Another one of those things where maybe, Tut Smith was trying to convince him, if you ever find the dagger, bring it back home or something. Probably.
Yeah.
And so we can go to that at this point, right? Because it's like at this time, but we'll get there in 1 second because I almost forgot this. You can also open the safe in Carrington's office, and you can find Sterling's diary. So this is the diary of the previous president. And it says that the previous president was starting to believe that the Countess only married him for his money and was planning on killing him. That was his fear. So, okay, Countess, is she evil? What's going on here? Mm-hmm. And then we probably should talk about the file. Because let's just get it all done. the whole thing in the
You might, because doesn't the diary kind of puts Yvette under the gun a little bit, like that she was afraid of the Countess, right?
Yeah, it says that. Yeah, Yvette was afraid of the Countess. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Actually, let's talk about the file in a minute. Let's come back to that. Let's do that because there's a better place to talk about it. We good so far? Anything you want to jump in on?
No, we're good. It's just, you don't realize it at the time, but it's really this scene is providing a lot of context for later things that happen, for sure. Yeah. Because there's this whole kind of side plot line that hinges around this that we haven't gotten to yet. That's kind of neat.
Exactly. Yeah. So this whole time we've been hearing from people that the Countess is dangerous. Did she kill her husband? Didn't she? Is she actually a dangerous person? We don't know.
Yeah. Without the diary, you've got a lot of plot holes.
Right. Though I would say, the diary confirms it for sure. But even if you don't have that, if you talk to Yvette and ask her about the Countess, Yvette will say, that the Countess is dangerous. People die when she's around. Ramses will actually say basically the same thing, that he gets bad vibes from her.
Yeah.
So you do get some indication, but this is like direct evidence, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, let's talk about that meeting. So we discovered, by rubbing the notepad there, that there's this meeting with Tut Smith. So we go to the Egyptian room and confront him. And one weird thing is that he's like, "Oh, what are you doing here? I'm here to see Pippin Carter." And Laura says essentially, "Well, didn't you know he was dead?" And he's like, "No, I'm shocked." Which, first of all, just logically, like, how would you not know that he's dead? Like, what did you think why do you think the museum's locked? Like, did you not see the commotion? Like, but also, if you happen to track him down before this, you can ask him, did you kill Dr. Carter? Like, separate of this meeting. Like, you can find him just wandering around and ask him, what do you think about Carter's death? And they just didn't account for that. And you can get to this place, and he just acts like he doesn't know.
Right, because you find that medallion, right, or whatever, and it's kind of like, I guess it's just a red herring then.
Yeah. So that's okay. We can talk about that now. So you do find the medallion, the Ankh. Frustratingly, you can't confront him on that. So even though you found the Ankh at the crime scene in the pool of blood, you can ask him about it in your notebook. Okay, so I guess I should make this distinction. One of the things that is actually a little bit frustrating is that there's for each thing in your notebook, right? Or for each item in your notebook, I should say, you can ask about it in your notebook, or you can show it to the person in your inventory. So it's the difference between saying like, hey, what do you know about this thing versus, hey, here's this thing, check this out, like showing it to them. And there are different responses to each of those. And so it's sort of easy to forget that like, oh, I talked to this person about this thing. Oh, but actually I missed some information because I asked them about it and I didn't show it to them.
Right.
Or vice versa. But in this case, if you ask him about his Ankh, he's just like, oh, I lost it. And then if you try to show it to him, the game doesn't let you talk to him. You get no response. You get the generic, you can't do that.
Right.
And I looked into it, and for whatever reason, he actually doesn't have any responses to any inventory items. You cannot show this character anything. They just didn't get to it, I guess.
Right.
Everybody else you can, but this character, like, no, you can't show him anything.
That is so funny.
That's particularly weird, right?
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah, didn't get to it. Does seem like the best conclusion to that, perhaps.
Yep. Yeah, I guess he just didn't get to it. But the other thing we do learn at this is that we confront him on the murder, and he claims that that he got a phone call during the party, and he went to Carrington's office, but when he got there, the line was dead.
Right. And then he just returned to the party.
So that's his excuse for like where he was during the murder. So seems kind of suspicious.
And
but
then
we
they're
can't
like,
really do anything with it yet. Yeah.
was at the scene but didn't meet Carter anyways. And then you're like all of a sudden you've realized that you're casting a bit of suspicion on everybody. You're like,
yes,
maybe it's Heimlich because he lured Tut away at the exact time. And this is when your brain really starts churning when you're playing this game to me.
No, absolutely, and you start getting hints of everybody could have done it, and who knows, right? So we have that meeting. That meeting is actually possible to miss, by the way, if you don't get the notebook. You don't get that cutscene, and you actually just have to wait. It's something like 18 to 20 minutes. And if you don't make it to the meeting on time, there's actually like a real world timer that if you wait long enough, time will just progress and you're locked out of it.
Right. Okay.
So that is an optional meeting to do there, but eventually time will click over whether you go to the meeting or not. And then at that point you come back and you find do you want to go to the pterodactyl room or the life mask room first? We'll do choose your own adventure.
Let's go for the life mask, although I am excited to get to the pterodactyl room,
yes.
too.
So you go to the life mask room, and I've actually never seen a life mask room in a museum ever, now that I think of it.
Yeah.
But so people not familiar, it's just like portraying how different people look across different regions and cultures throughout the world. It's sort of like a look at the differences between people and across the world. And there's a bunch of like masks on the wall that are like sort of like realistic heads. Basically, there's a bunch of heads on the wall, is what it is. And so, if you came in here earlier, you'll notice that there is a new head on the wall, and it is Ziggy's head. Ziggy has been decapitated. His head's been put on the wall, and you scream, and you can investigate it, but you don't find anything because it's just a head. And then Wolf and O'Reilly come in, and again, it's like, what are you keep turning up at these crime scenes. What's going on? But then they eventually leave. So
Yeah, because Heimlich wants to interrogate Laura too. He's like, let's
does.
get it. And then O'Reilly's just like, meh, it's okay. Chill, dudes, chill.
yeah, yeah. He's surprisingly chill about everything. He says something like, "I'm not saying you didn't do it, but for now, you just chill out. We'll come back to you later." Like,
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
And this is where you get that the red herring. They throw another one, the paper cutter.
Yes.
It suggested that she might have been involved in the decapitation, but really,
Right. Yeah. So to clarify that, there's a paper cutter in a vet's office, and it has blood on it, and so was a vet involved in it? Though does she seem like the kind of person to be able to drag a paper cutter across the museum and decapitate a man and then drag it all the way back?
Right.
Yes, yeah. So it's what's fun too, at least from having played the game before, is that finding Ziggy's head is completely optional. You don't have to find it. You can finish the game just fine and never find his head. Completely optional.
That you brought up a good point there that makes me go back to the Carter being stuffed in the Knights thing, because it does seem like a hastily made decision on the designer's part, because it's like you do kind of rule out all the women when you say that the body was now, like, I mean, I know it's fiction. We can, like, whatever suspend disbelief, let's say. But it's like, for the most part, you're kind of ruling out any, like, like Yvette, let's say, or because really, like,
or the Countess, yeah.
Yeah, or the Countess, or Waldorf Carlton. Sorry, you just said the Countess, but anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I totally get it. Like, realistically speaking, like, Yvette she doesn't look like the kind of person who could, like, who could pull off that kind of physical feat. Not to be sexist or anything, but just how she's portrayed in the game, it just doesn't seem like she could pull it off.
Yeah, like, as a 6'1" dude, I don't think I could manhandle another man into So right, okay. Well, you know what? There's no sense going down this road, because it's about to get even more ridiculous under that scope when we go into the next room.
yeah.
we go into
let's go check it out.
We go into the dinosaur room, and there used to be a pterodactyl hanging from the ceiling. It is no longer hanging from the ceiling. The pterodactyl has plunged into the back of a headless person. So because we found the head already, we know it's Ziggy. But if you happen to find this first, you don't know exactly who it is. But yeah, it's really ridiculous. You have this pterodactyl that has impaled somebody and killed them. Which, like, realistically speaking, and the clue that we find there is that the wires have been cut. And if you examine it with your magnifying glass, you find that they've been neatly cut. So they didn't just, like, wear out. Somebody cut the wires. But realistically, they would have to cut, like, all three simultaneously to get it to fall straight down like that.
Right.
Which doesn't make any... Again, this is one of those, like, this is silly, but let's take it seriously.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's actually on the picture of this is on the back of the box. It's not really that much of a spoiler, but it's just it's silly. It's ridiculous.
Do we know why Ziggy has been killed yet?
No, I would say not.
Have we discovered it at this point? Have we figured it out?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Do we know? I don't think we have a reason for it. Maybe Carrington's the only one that we know maybe why they died, more or less.
Well, Carrington, we're getting things a little confused here. So do you mean fake Carrington or real Carrington?
Sorry, real Carrington. Like, once you find out that he's actually Watney, then maybe, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
So yeah.
We
So
didn't get to the diary, right?
Yeah. Or we need to get to the police file.
Okay,
So-
that's why I'm confused, because I've got that under the diary. Okay, my
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I purposely skipped that because we're going back in there to find. We don't know that yet.
Okay.
Right.
We hardly know anything yet, honestly.
We're just starting to realize people are getting killed and everybody's a
Exactly.
suspect, and we're really right in the thick of that now.
I'm just simulating what the game does, which is randomly knowing things it shouldn't ahead of time.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think mine's in, like, a weird order. So anyway, so there's that. We do kind of, like, wander around for a little bit, and we overhear a conversation. We haven't talked about this yet, but there is a water glass at the party that you can pick up, and occasionally you will go by doors, and the narrator will say something like, you hear some voices from behind the door. And if you put the glass up to the door, you can eavesdrop some more. There's a lot of eavesdropping going on in this game. And I've skipped I think 1 or 2 conversations because it doesn't really matter. But this one's kind of important. It's between O'Reilly and Yvette. And we learn they kind of profess their love for each other. I love you. I'm not quite ready for marriage yet, but you're mine, I'm yours. But O'Reilly, does say, if I ever found out you were sleeping with somebody else, I'd have to kill you.
He's so possessive and he's super jealous. Yes. And Yvette's a little tiny bit flirtatious.
Yeah, she sleeps with everybody.
Yeah.
There's a list that I put in the video, but I can't even. It's like 10 people long, and every other cutscene is like her seducing somebody else. So that's kind of important. Let's go into the office now. Why don't we do that? Okay. So we go back into Carrington's office, and what do we find there?
This is the fun death we were talking about at the beginning of the game.
Yes. Does somebody want to take this?
It's Paul. You were the one describing it so beautifully.
I'm panicking because I'm like, wait, is it a porcupine? Is that the spiky one?
Yeah, that's the porcupine.
Yes, it's the spiky one. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the porcupine.
Okay.
It is. There's a few clues in here too.
Wait, are hedgehogs spiky too?
Not
hedgehogs
that
might be spiky too, but the game calls it a porcupine.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we got a dead body draped over a porcupine, stabbed just several times through with all the, the quills.
Quills.
The
Yeah.
titanium.
And they're going
grade
right
quills.
through his body because they're so freaking huge.
Yes.
And you've got I think there's like a clock and you've got some initials. Like there's a few things to look at because there's not much you can do otherwise in there.
No, I'll just say that I think this is the most ridiculous death.
Yeah.
Because like porcupine quills do not go through people. That's just not how that works. But yeah, so it's ridiculous, but also macabre and kind of fun, and the porcupine's expression, I have to say, is great because it looks like the porcupine is shocked. Keep in mind, this is a stuffed porcupine on the desk for people, in case that wasn't clear. Yeah, the stuffed porcupine looks like it's just absolutely. It's just appalled that it's been used in this murder.
He's like, holy shit, I didn't know my quills could go straight through a man. I was pretty sure they could.
Yeah.
No,
so there,
dead.
as yes. As Anna said, there's a smash clock there, so you know the time of death. And then there's also 2 initials CP in blood on the
Which
desk.
you would think would be a character, and you're like, well, which character has those initials? But it's not.
No, this to me is nonsense. I'm just gonna say it because it's ostensibly a clue, but clues should point people in a direction.
Yeah.
And this just doesn't do that. So here's what's going on. In Carrington's office, there's a bookshelf. And if you click on any of the books, there's like dozens of books, right, on the back wall. Yeah. You get the generic, you can't do that here response. I think it's something like, don't touch that, you don't know where it's been.
Right,
okay?
right.
And so for every single one of them, you're told, that isn't useful, don't do that. Except for one. There is a single book. And it's not like you click in the general area of the book. No, you have to click on the exact right book.
The red one.
The red one. Well, this red one in particular, there's multiple red ones. But on this shelf, you open it up and it's Crime and Punishment. And that is what the CP stands for. Which is absolute nonsense because you can only... The book tells you what the initials stand for. The initials don't point to anything. It's not a clue.
No,
right?
This one was cruel. This one really got me. Yeah. I remember being stuck here for a long time because the game isn't After like 7, I wouldn't even do it 7 times. Like the rules of it breaks the unspoken rules of adventure games in a sense, where it's like, hey, if I'm warm, if I'm in the area, like maybe signpost something like that. At least I should be looking at books. But when an adventure game's like generic rejection number 6, it's like, oh, okay, I'm cold. It's nothing to do with this.
It's not even saying the book titles, You think it would be like it would tell you a bunch of almost the same as real life book titles.
That would tell me like, okay, one of these is going to be significant. Right.
Exactly. That I think would have fit the era. And that would have been a good signpost that, maybe one of these is actually important. I think if you did that in a modern adventure game, it would go too far in the other direction, and you would just click on the bookshelf, and it would say something like, Laura looks through all the books until she finds one that looks interesting, and then you would get that book.
None of these books over here appear interesting.
Yep. And then she just would no matter where you click, she would just get that one book.
Yeah, except for this one.
Yep.
But there is something hidden in the book that might help put a few clues together as to what's going on.
Yes. So the book has inside of it a police file. And the police file details the career of Watney Little, who was basically just a career criminal, con man, did a bunch of crime. And he recently escaped from Dartmoor prison. I don't know where that is, but Scotland Yard is tracking him. He's from England, is what it's trying to get you at. And on the very front of it, it says, "Remember our deal." There's a little note pinned to it. And so, even if you have that, I'm not quite sure how you're supposed to piece it together. Knowing the answers in hindsight, but I guess I'll just say it. So somehow from that, you're supposed to infer that the Carrington that is dead was not actually Carrington. That was Watney Little. The person we've been talking to as Carrington was an imposter. And way back at the beginning of the game, the person who was stuffed into the trunk, that was the real Carrington.
Right.
And that, I guess that becomes a little clearer later. But the file, on its own, I think it's a little rough trying to figure that out, too, because it's like, okay, here's a police file. Why does Carrington have it? If you don't have any other clues,
Right.
Yeah.
But there is one bit of dialogue that's kind of important back at the party. If you ask Carter about Carrington, he'll say, yeah, he's a good chap. Excuse me, I'm British. And then, and I met him a few years ago, but he looks different now.
Aha, that's the clue.
and so, Pippin Carter, who we discovered the dagger and then later was stabbed with the dagger, he had met the real Carrington earlier in his life, and the Carrington of today, it looks a little bit different. But at the time, Carter just says something like, "Oh, he's getting older, right? He looks different."
Which, by the way, that's what ruins that clue. Not that it's even a good clue to begin with, but when he undermines it with, because if he left it, I swear, if he had just left it at he looks different, then I think it would have flagged something for me. But then he's like, oh, but he got older, and it's like, oh, well, then this is nothing.
Okay, forget about it.
And it's only in hindsight after you know the answers that it's like, oh, that was supposed to be a clue.
Yeah.
And keep in mind again that one line of dialogue is buried in an hour of dialogue.
Yeah.
Right.
It is.
So and you might not even get to it. But anyway, you find the police file. So what do we kind of do with this? I don't know. I'll come back to that later. Does anyone want to make any other comments about the police file at the moment?
Well, I will say that Dartmoor Prison is indeed in Princeton, Devon, England.
Okay.
Which I had to
There we
look
go.
into since we were wondering. It is in absolutely a real jail. But yeah, so this kind of, I don't know, it turns the whole story on its head over again. It's like you're thinking that this is an investigation about theft or even murder, but I think now is when you're starting to realize it goes even deeper into that, like identity theft and like deep level corruption.
Exactly. And you're wondering so now we've got like this other mystery on top of a mystery on top of a mystery. Like we thought we were investigating the dagger, but now there are murders, but now there's also this like hidden identity thing. it's just you're just throwing all the mysteries at the wall. Like it's happening.
You're right. It is on top of because we have the wet paint issue to deal with.
And,
too.
yes, and the wet paint issue. So what's going on with that? And so
Right.
there's like, I think that is a problem with the game. There are too many mysteries.
Definitely.
It is normal in mystery stories to have like subplots and sub mysteries, but like one, you know,
Right. It's
like not multiple or not like as many as are here, but yeah.
Yeah, the info dump in Act 2 hinders it too, because it's
Yes.
just it's just too much to digest to really like. I still even replaying it a third time and remembering how this all goes. Let's say it's still a little overwhelming mentally to like start tracking. It's almost a little overwhelming to try to even care about the Watney Little Carrington situation, where it's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna show up that right now because I don't know what to do with it, and I'm trying to figure this murder out.
Right. So then carrying on here, unless there's something else you wanted to mention.
No, good.
No, okay. So let's go grab some items because this is an adventure game. Remember, so we go down to the basement, and how you get down, it's not really important, but you move there's like a secret passageway down that you like move the head on the Thinker statue, which is kind of cool, but also like really impractical and kind of stupid.
Yeah.
So you, like
It's supposed
why-
to be a work of art, right?
it's supposed to be a work of art, but you move it, and like there are offices downstairs, and this is like the one of the only ways to get down there.
Yeah.
And so like so what happens if you need to go down there when the museum's open? You just kind of like reveal the hidden passage in front of the museum guests. I don't know. But you get a bunch of stuff downstairs is basically what it is. And for time's sake, I'll just sort of list them quickly. You get a bunch of crap.
Just like, is Ernie Batman?
Exactly. So you get a lantern. You take that from downstairs. It's an emergency lantern. You go into Wolf's office and you get some cheese, which is kind of funny how you get it. You need to like. Let's back up a second. So it's like Wolf is like very concerned about rodents, and so his office is covered in like weapons. Yeah, and so I just got what you said. And so to get the cheese, there's like cheese in like a mouse trap, and so if you try to just get it, like it'll trip this machine gun that will shoot you, like and just put you full of holes. But then you have to trip the mousetrap with an item. There's a bone that you find elsewhere. Anyway, you get some cheese from his office is the point. You go into Ernie's office and you get a snake lasso. And then finally, this is the most important part. There are a bunch of vats downstairs. There are alcoholic preservation vats with animals in them and specimens. Some are jokes too. There's like a unicorn in one of them. King Edward of Daventry is in another one. Just references to Sierra games. But when we're in Ernie's office, we overhear over the loudspeaker Olympia come on and say something like, "Hey Ernie, can you check number 13? The valve is jammed." Right. So that's our clue to go over and investigate vat number 13. And if you do and you stir it, you bring up, ta-da, the dagger. You have found the Dagger of Amon Ra.
Ooh.
Is the one from the gift shops? No, right? Because yeah.
No, if you were going to ask, is the one from the gift shop still there?
Yeah.
Good question. The gift shop is locked, and you can't go back in there.
Okay.
So that is something. Yeah, I'm happy you brought that up because just thinking about it narratively, it just I don't understand it. So first the dagger was in the gift shop, then somehow whoever like stole it couldn't find a better hiding place than in the alcohol vat.
Right.
I don't understand.
I like the idea of them hiding it in the gift shop and then later on being like, hiding it in plain sight is so stupid, and they run back and get it. Like, that was a bad idea. Let's try the vat of the transparent vat too. At that, like, the green stuff is clear. The liquid is clear. It's not like murky waters, right? You're throwing it into a clear vat of.
I mean, it's a little murky. It's green tinged. It's a little murky, but like you can. I mean, we the player found it pretty damn easily. So like,
right.
I don't understand. So there's that. should we talk about the dagger now? We can talk about it now.
Yeah.
One weird thing. So now we've got the dagger, like, and supposedly, like, this was the big mystery to solve. It's the name of the game.
Yeah.
The Dagger of Amon Ra. It doesn't matter. Because, like, you would think that you could show the dagger to somebody or tell somebody, hey, I found the dagger. You can't. You go around, like, you talk to people, and they're like, oh, it's too bad that the dagger got stolen. Mm-hmm. And then if you try to show it to people, most of the time they just make a joke out of it. Like, if you try showing it to Ernie, he's like, hey, don't point that thing at me. Ha, ha, ha. I'll give you all my money. You know, and then, you know, and most of them think that it's like a fake dagger from the gift shop. Like, if you go there downstairs early and then show it to Ziggy before he dies, obviously, he's like, you know, what's that? One of them fake pig stickers?
Right.
You know?
You finally find the dagger, and the game just gaslights you.
Yeah, just nobody cares. And then there's it's also broken too because of this and some other things. I am sure that at some point you were intended to be able to give the dagger away, to lose it. Mm-hmm. Because you can, when you give it to the Countess, she says, oh, thanks, let me have a closer look. Mm-hmm. But then you don't give it to her. And then if you show it to O'Reilly, I think I actually have, do I have this down somewhere? No, it doesn't. I don't think I have it down exactly. But you show it to O'Reilly, and he's like, "Oh, this looks like a gift shop dagger, but I just want to make sure. You mind if I hold on to this? I'll give it back to you later." And Laura's like, "Oh, okay." But then the game doesn't actually remove it from your inventory, so it's like, what are you doing? So you were supposed to at one point have been able to give the dagger away, but you can't actually do that. You can't actually tell anybody aside from that you found the dagger, and you can't, like, it just doesn't matter. The dagger doesn't matter.
The dagger, it seems like it's almost it was a burden on the developers. Like, this goddamn, we got to deal with this thing the game's named after.
Yep. God, it's kind of annoying, actually. But yeah, unless there was something you wanted to say about that, I'll continue on here. So then, if you remember, on Carrington's desk, when we found him dead, there was a note that talked about a meeting at 1 a.m. between Countess and Ziggy. And if we're watching the clock here, it is now almost 1 a.m. So we go into the armor room, and we kind of hide behind the tapestry, and the Countess comes in with some paintings under her arms. And we can come out of the tapestry and confront her on it. And what happens is that she just very readily, very easily confesses to the entire art forgery scheme. And what she tells you, this is where we go back to the wet paint on the paintings, that she had a forger forge the paintings, make forgeries of the paintings, rather, and make fake paintings, and then steal the real ones, put the fake ones up, that's where the wet paint comes from, and then they were going to sell the real paintings off. And she just profit. For profit, yeah. And she just tells you this. And you get a little bit more information here because she does say that it was a deal I had worked out with Carrington.
Right.
Right. And she says, I was the one who brought Carrington over from Europe, she says, technically not England, but Europe, which that kind of makes sense because she's the one who picked him up in the taxi, which is easy to forget because that was hours ago. But she picked him up from the ship. And she also lied about having met him at the ship. But in any case, we do learn that, so she was working with Carrington to sell the paintings in the museum. And then I guess we're supposed to just put this together that Ziggy is the art theft middleman because they need somebody to sell the paintings off in the criminal world. And I guess the hint is just that, I guess there are two hints really. On the note on the desk says that Ziggy was supposed to come to this meeting too, right? Yeah. And also at the party, Ziggy has a conversation you overhear with the Countess where he's like, oh, that's the deal, Countess. And then she's like, let's talk about this more later. Yeah. So he's involved with the art theft, or he was rather, involved in the art theft scheme as well. So that kind of answers all that, though it doesn't answer some other bigger questions like was she also involved with Watney Little killing Carrington, did she know that Carrington was an imposter? And it's like, it seems like it. That seems logical, but you never find out. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, this is just a weird, I don't know, nitpicky. This isn't the game's fault necessarily, just inherent with the way it was written. But like, she was legitimately rich, so it's always stuck with me. Like, why would she try to get criminally richer? Like,
I don't think she was. Okay, this is interesting. Where do you get that idea?
That she was the wife of the owner of the museum.
Yes, but in an eavesdropping scene, okay, with gosh, what am I trying to say? She eavesdropped on a scene with the Countess, and the Countess says, it's too bad my husband died. He was really rich, but there's a problem with the will. Sterling was changing it just before he died. And so from that and things in the diary, you put it together, Sterling suspected that she married him for money and was going to kill him, so he changed the will so she wouldn't get the money.
Got you. Okay, cool. All right.
And she's like, hopefully my attorney, my lawyer will figure this out soon. So that's why she needed to do this, because she saw an opportunity. She wasn't going to get the money from her rich dead husband because he changed his will.
Okay, cool. Okay, they had that one covered then. Awesome.
To me, this is the moment when you realize absolutely nothing is authentic in the world you're experiencing. It's like the museum. The art's not real. The people aren't who they say they are. The artifacts aren't what they say they are. The relationships aren't what you think they are. Like, you're just realizing that everything around you is essentially fake. And I think that's kind of neat.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah. And thankfully, like, I feel two ways about it. On the one hand, it does seem kind of weird that she was just confessed to everything, you know? But on the other hand, I'm thankful that the game is just clear about something.
Right.
Even if there are still questions like, did she help him break out of prison? Did she know that he was an imposter? Because she never says it. Like, who knows?
Where's the painter, and did he just finish that like 20 minutes ago? How's it still wet?
Yeah, so it's just a bunch of stuff that, anyway. So anyway, we see my notes here. Okay, so there's that. And then, God, how much detail do we want to go into with this? Basically, it sounds weird, but we find a skeleton key on the anonymous Bosch painting in the art gallery. So we find a key in the museum. Unfortunately, it does not unlock the front doors. That would have been nice if we could just get the hell out of there. No, it's locked. But it does open something else. So if we go back down to the basement, so after that Countess scene, there's a door that was locked before, and now it's open. And it's downstairs. It's in the vat room where we found the dagger, but in the back of it. And it's the mammalogy lab. It's the room where, like, I guess they like skin the mammals and like stuff them or something. That's what it seems like. I don't know exactly. But there's a couple of things here. The first one that isn't important now but becomes important later is that there's some snake oil on the table. So we grab the snake oil. And then there's a trunk. And the trunk is interesting because Daisy, Olympia's ferret, kind of saunters up to it and sniffs at it a little bit. And we have a key. So we try it, and it opens up the trunk, and we get eaten by a bunch of bugs. It is, I think, my favorite death in the game because it's just so unexpected and so violent. Like you're just eaten to bits, and it's crazy. But what do you guys think about this death?
It's beautiful, right? And it's fast, and you don't really. It's one of those moments where you don't even think to save first. You're just like, got key, open trunk, let's go. Should I catch this ferret? Because I know the ferret's loose. Like, you've got a few things going on, so your brain's kind of distracted. So when it happens, it totally catches you off guard.
Yeah, but it's also a good representation of all of the best of Sierra deaths and why I just love them to bits. Even if you had to replay, like you just said, Ans, that you probably wouldn't have saved recently, even the best of us, or the most experienced Sierra players. But it's the little animation and just the whole thing is like, this is why I prefer deaths to no deaths. Ones like these.
Yeah, I do like in modern games that you have basically a rewind function.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
that you don't have to think about saving. Like, that's kind of nice.
Right, definitely.
I don't. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I don't enjoy the deaths for like the danger factor, but they're just funny.
Right.
That's what I like.
The
about
little
them.
animation is always like adorable. Yeah, there's something oddly charming about getting killed in Sierra games.
Exactly.
Which is good because the deaths aren't done yet.
No, they're not. By the quick side note, well, I guess you guys know this because you've seen the video, but when you get the deaths and you get those little like puns afterwards, those aren't voice acted in the game, but they recorded the voice lines and they just forgot to wire them up, which is just a shame because the actress does such a good job of voicing them too.
Yeah.
You can decompile it and extract those, and for the video, I've put those back in for the deaths that I do show.
That's great.
But to avoid the death, what do we need to do? There is a gross piece of meat in the fridge that I guess was there to... I actually don't know why it was there. It's just a gross piece of meat in the fridge. I guess maybe the bugs got loose and it was for the bugs all along. I don't know. Whatever. You feed the meat to the bugs. They don't actually eat it though. They carry it off.
Right.
Like,
It
yeah,
always
we got
makes
the
me
meat.
think like the ants go marching 2 by 2, hurrah. Every time I see that, I think
Yep.
of that song.
I like to think that they're the descendants of the ants that King Antony in King's Quest V.
Right.
Even though I know those are
call.
different universes, I like to think of King's Quest as like medieval
Right.
and ancient. But it's kind of like that. They carry it off like, yay, we got the meat. And back to the vegetarian thing about Laura, you can try to take the meat later, and it'll tell you you're a vegetarian. You don't want that meat. So that's fun. But in any case, we look in and we find a skeleton in the trunk. And this is indeed the trunk from the intro cutscene, and it's that same dead body. And we find in there a pocket watch. The pocket watch is engraved to Archibald Carrington III. So even if you didn't find the police file, actually, even if you did find the police file, this clears up, I think, more. Because now it's like, okay, so if this is Carrington in the steamer trunk, who's the guy upstairs impaled on the porcupine?
Right.
What's going on? And I think that helps you kind of put together, if you have that and the police file, right?
Yeah.
Then you can kind of put it together a little bit better. One thing that I find I know this is nitpicky, but I'm going to nitpick it, a little bit annoying, is that it's supposed to be the same trunk, but if you examine it side by side, the trunks don't look the same. There's like straps on the one in the intro that aren't there in the one in the basement. And I actually had a line in the video that I'm making where like, look, that looks like the same trunk, but it doesn't look like the same trunk at all.
Right. On one hand, they're not reusing assets, and on the other hand, they should be reusing assets.
Yeah. So that is a little bit. So I can understand why somebody wouldn't make that connection, and also that was hours and hours and hours ago.
Right.
But you do have that. So okay, we've got some evidence. We've got a pocket watch. This is pretty strong evidence too, right? You find it next to a corpse. It's got the corpse's name on it, right?
Yeah.
You would think. So you have that, and the act is almost over. We come upstairs, we overhear an argument between Yvette and O'Reilly. O'Reilly accuses Yvette of sleeping with Steve, who, by the way, has not been around in Act 3 at all. We haven't seen him anywhere. And then Yvette, this is the important part, says that Ziggy told her that Carrington and O'Reilly stole the dagger. So, we get this. Now, was he telling the truth? Who knows? But at least now we have, like, some evidence, some secondhand evidence that, okay, it was Carrington, the imposter Carrington, Watney Little, and O'Reilly who stole the dagger. Why, how, like, we don't know.
Well, we especially don't know because we don't have any grasp on Ziggy's intentions or purpose, right? That makes it even more vague because it's like, well, I don't even know what Ziggy's up to trust.
Right.
Yeah, there's no foundation to base judgment on. because we don't know
Exactly.
Ziggy. Yeah.
And how much of this is their personal relationship? Because at the same time, he's super possessive, and his relationship with Yvette is like super volatile. So like the whole conversation ends up going personal, right? He's like, "Oh, you're cheating on me," and all this other stuff. So
Yep. Yeah, and so yeah, like she might be exaggerating. Like you don't know. Like but at least it's something. It
Yeah.
is something.
but he did threaten her. He's just like,
Yes, he did.
Because earlier, right? He's just like, if you ever cheat on me, I'm gonna kill you.
Yep, and she's sleeping with everybody.
Oh gosh, yeah. That's funny. It was just I don't know. It was kind of it puts some clues into what this O'Reilly character is really about right here.
Yes, yeah. So now you really start putting some suspicion on him if you haven't already.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's only a couple more things to do in this act, which I mean this is a long one. But there is there's a conversation that you can overhear in the armor room again. So you can go back there, hop behind the tapestry, and there's a meeting between Wolf and Dr. Miklos. And you could have learned this earlier, but if you didn't already, you learned that they're a couple, they're an item, they're into each other. And so there's that information. But you also hear this thing about how, like, Wolf kind of laments about, if I was in charge of the museum, things would go much better. And Olympia says something like, "No, but there are ways of doing that. Let's talk more in private." So now you're thinking, well, are these two responsible for anything? What's their
I'd like
scheming?
to see your scars.
I like to see your scar. He has these fencing scars.
Yeah.
Which were a real thing for German officers during that time. I've been informed that they would there were like fencing clubs, and it was a point of pride to have like scars on your face because it showed that you didn't flinch, like you didn't look away when the swords came, towards you. But yeah, so like maybe they're doing something.
Exactly. And politically, right? Because she's all like, I'm gonna manipulate things, and Wolf's gonna get the position. So it's like they have this whole deal going on.
Yep. So there's something funny there. So we kind of follow her out, and then we find Ernie on top of the mastodon tusks. There's a mastodon room, and Ernie is dead. He's on top of the mastodon tusks. This one is not like outright silly, but it is kind of silly because it's very clear from the evidence that he was drowned in the alcohol vats. You examine him, and just everything points to him being drowned in the vats. He smells like alcohol. The narrator says that you see some like foam in his mouth that looks like he drowned. His pants are all wet. You see some like warthog hairs, and there's warthogs like in one of the vats. So there's all that. Oh, one thing I didn't mention is that there is a conversation between Ernie and Yvette, where Ernie says something like, "I saw something I wasn't supposed to see tonight." And it never really specifies what that is, but I'm imagining it's one of the other murders. Because what else would it be? It's either that or somebody moving the dagger, I guess. That's maybe another option. But this death is only silly because he was obviously drowned in the alcohol vats.
Yeah.
Why would you then drag him upstairs and throw him over the mastodon tusks?
Yeah.
Other than just the designers saying, well, it's probably easier to see him up here and it looks cooler.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely don't think about it one. I guess I guess that's the emerging theme in the pursuit of a cool looking scene, which fair enough. But yeah, this one to hoist a 180-pound body to where that's
poor
at.
guy,
That's
man.
just not.
World War I vet. Like he has like a metal plate in his head, this poor guy,
He does,
right? Like
yeah.
he does not have an easy time. And then to die like that, so unfair.
It really is. Oh, and then I love Wolf has a line. So you go into the next room, into the master's gallery, the painting gallery, and you tell again, hey, I found another dead body. I totally didn't kill anybody, but I found another one. And Wolf's, you say he's dead. He's on top of the mastodon tusks, and Wolf's like, oh, he's probably just sleeping on the job.
Right.
Taking a nap up there.
The art with that, there's two things weird about it. One I'll leave to you, Matt, but the other one is the I don't know if this got either of you, but I feel like the skin tone isn't right. So like I didn't know. I don't know. It just always threw me off for some reason, like gameplay wise, because I'm sure the name Ernie is named, so you know who it is. But I don't know. I always I would be prone to forgetting that happened altogether because I visualized who it was and it didn't look like Ernie, and it didn't look like him for another reason.
Yeah. So the other reason is that Ernie has a mustache when you talk to him, and the entire rest of the game. And then for whatever reason, in the close-up of him dead, his mustache is gone.
Yeah.
He has no mustache, which is something I didn't know. Like I didn't notice until I was playing this on stream like last year, and somebody pointed it out. So I went my entire life not noticing that.
And I always thought he was that body was white. So it's like it almost just seemed like at one point Ernie was like a white guy with no mustache because
interesting. Okay, I did recognize him because of like his clothes. Like the clothes are the same.
Right.
But it is I'm looking at the art right now. It's a cool death pose. Like as far as death poses go, like. As silly as it is, like the art is actually really cool for all of the deaths. Honestly,
yeah.
It's really neat. So then, Act One ends there, or Act 3 rather. Act 1 has been over for a long time. There's one more thing I want to share about Act 3, but do you have anything?
No, I don't. No. How about you, Anna?
No, we've been covering it pretty. At this point, if you're paying attention and you're taking notes, you should be kind of getting an idea of who's involved with what. And if you're not, then it still might be a mess of all sorts of confusing things right now.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, a bunch of people died, and we have suspicion on like a bunch of people. And there's there's a imposter thing, but we did find the dagger. Let's recap it a little bit. We did find the dagger. Yay us. A bunch of people died. We don't really know why yet. We do what am I trying to say? We did learn that there's an imposter. We did learn about Watney Little, and we did learn about the art forgery scheme. So there's a sound file that I just put into Discord. Don't listen to it yet. We're going to do like a 1, 2, 3 go, just so I can get your live reactions to it. But let me preface this. So remember how we were unclear on exactly what was going on with the Countess and Carrington and Watney Little, right? Like it seems to make sense that she knew about all that, but we don't really know. And imagine if you had seen that scene, but had never found the police file, like how confusing that would be and how awful it is. We'll spoil this. The police file is the only time that you ever hear Watney Little's name. If you don't get that, you don't have that.
Right.
Okay. Like you don't know a main character in the game, right? Who was really important. Except you were supposed to hear it elsewhere. So during that meeting with the Countess, where you confront her with the paintings in the armor room, there is some dialogue that would have played if you show her the pocket watch. If you show her the pocket watch at any other time, there's different dialogue that doesn't tell you much of anything, right? She has a little like reaction to it. So like if you show it to her when she's just wandering, she's sort of like, what's that? Like you can tell that she recognizes it, but you don't get any information. But only at this meeting, if you show her the pocket watch, you will hear a different conversation. Or you would have, except the designers forgot that you can't get the pocket watch until after the conversation.
Oh my.
The door downstairs to where the pocket watch is doesn't unlock until after the Countess conversation. So you can't... So what you are about to hear, no one has ever heard. And when you hear what they say, you will understand my frustration at this freaking game. Okay, so this is Laura shows the pocket watch to the Countess. Inaccessible dialogue. Nobody playing this game has ever heard this.
Does this look familiar?
It looks like a pocket watch.
You'd never guess where I found it.
In your purse?
In a trunk with a human skeleton. The engraving on the inside of the watch says it belongs to Dr. Archibald Carrington III.
Dr. Kara, what?
Having trouble talking?
I didn't kill him. Watney did it.
Tell me about it.
I hired Watney to impersonate Carrington. Then Watney killed Carrington on the boat during their trip here from England.
You hired him to kill Dr. Carrington?
No, that was his idea.
Okay. If Carrington's skeleton is in the trunk, then who's the corpse on the desk in Carrington's office?
Oh, God! It's Watney Little! Someone killed Watney!
Someone who thought he was the real Carrington?
How would I know? I wasn't there!
Who else, besides you, would have a reason to kill him?
I don't know! Maybe someone else knew his true identity. Maybe he made someone angry. Maybe he killed himself.
I seriously doubt that the man would commit suicide by impaling himself on a porcupine.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know who did it. I just know I didn't do it. You must believe me.
Now, wouldn't that have been nice to know?
Yeah.
Wow, so explanatory.
Right.
It explains like half the mystery.
Oh,
It
my
really
goodness.
does. There's no other point in the game does that much information that's useful get delivered in a minute and 20 seconds.
No.
It's like packed with useful information.
Yeah. Yet you learn about Watney. You learn that Watney killed Carrington on the boat in the beginning. You learn about Watney's existence, period, if you didn't find the file.
It's actually
This boggles my mind.
It's quite cathartic, to be honest, because I think, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, the Watney part of this story has always gone over my head.
Yeah.
Like complete to the point where every time I play it, I just abandon it. I just let it go. Like, you know what? I just don't get it, and I'm not going to worry about it. This time I'm going to focus, do a better job of focusing on the murders or whatever. Like, it's just never. They just never give you enough, and there it is. That would have made it enough.
They did give you enough, except they didn't.
Right.
It's interesting because so he's like, I don't know, he's the first to murder at the beginning, and then later on it goes the exact opposite way on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we get all these sorts of we get clues to maybe why he was murdered. Like this is a minor point in there, but they're like, why was he killed? Maybe somebody discovered his identity.
Wow.
Why
Now you're
would that-
kind of like he wanted power.
Yeah, it's like what? I don't know. My mind is blown.
Yeah.
That this is in the game, but you literally can't hear it, and it explains so much.
Man. Yeah. It really. I mean,
Wow.
You've been through a lot of the files recently, obviously. Is there another minute and 20 seconds of exposition like that?
That is that packed? I would say no.
Right.
I guess the only other one that's that packed is like her confession to the art forgery scheme, because that's like another third of the mystery.
Right.
Like the only thing, like just this conversation in the armor hall with the Countess explains everything except who stole the dagger and then like who killed everybody. But all the other parts of the mystery, like this is it. Like this is the whole thing, and this is like necessary to understand who stole the dagger and then like why.
Dude, his deception sets up the stage for every single other event in the game.
Yep. Now, do you believe her when she says that she didn't? This is the only thing that of thinking about it logically that I wonder about. She says that she wasn't involved in the killing, but then it's also like, okay, but you hired Watney to impersonate Carrington. What did you think was going to happen? Were you just going to kidnap Carrington and like tie him up in a basement for the rest of his life? Like what?
Yeah.
What did you think was going to happen? So I don't know if I believe that. Like, how do you impersonate somebody and then just a couple months down the line just let them go? Like what?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
I don't know. But that to me was shocking to find that.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Thank you for sharing, because that needs to be cut
Yeah.
into the episode too, like on a quality level, so everyone can hear that, like, as we just did. Damn.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. As a side note, I think I may have found that at one point and then didn't realize the significance of it. I only rediscovered that like 2 days ago.
Oh wow.
So I actually need to re-edit the video to mention
Wow.
this.
Right.
So
So yeah, I guess we're kind of at the start of Act 4, and you're kind of coming in, and Yvette she's rather upset about Ernie actually at this point. So you're learning a little bit about that.
yeah, so she's super upset about him. Laura, funnily enough, gets like really jealous and says something like, "Oh, I know you didn't really love Ernie because you've been hanging out so much with Steve tonight," which seems wildly out of character. But then also we haven't seen Steve since the party. Like, where's he been? And so how does Laura know that? It's just I think the game kind of goes off the rails here in a fun way, but it's still kind of off the rails. 'Cause it's like, where is this jealousy coming from? You haven't even been spending time at all with Steve. You don't know where he's been. But anyway, yeah, Yvette's upset. She seems legitimately sad that Ernie is dead, and we leave her to that. And then we find Steve out in the hallway. He's, kind of being hit on by Olympia Miklos. So everybody loves Steve now. And then we have a conversation with Steve. He seems kind of dumb, honestly, because we're like, "Have you heard about the murders?" And he's like,
Gee, I don't. Yeah.
murders? Well, I think I might have heard something about that." It's like, there's a dead body in every room in the museum. If you walked like in any room, you're gonna see a body. Like, what are you doing? And then he goes into Yvette's office, and then there's another sort of jealousy scene where Steve is, rubbing Yvette's shoulders to try to, comfort her, and then Laura gets more jealous and then leaves in a huff.
Laura's amount of possession at this point, it's like the game kind of saying, like, yeah, they're about to go off and have a very toxic relationship.
Yes.
Very.
Though if Gabriel Knight, Sins of the Fathers is to believe, a very long toxic relationship. Because there is a small Easter egg in that game where it mentions that Laura, it's like Laura Bodorian or something, or Laura Dory.
Right,
It's like a hyphenated name. They're married. They're still married in the 90s, basically.
Aw.
So, so there's that, toxic or not. But then, so we see Yvette with Steve. We get super jealous. And then, oddly enough, to make time advance, you have to go to the basement, and then the clock advances. And I think that's just because what happens next is you go back upstairs and you find a statue in the master's gallery. I guess they just made you go downstairs so that it's believable that Yvette would travel from her office to there and give the killer time to kill her, I guess, is the idea, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I'll buy that, yeah.
Like, you go away and then you gotta come back, or whatever. In any case, Yvette is dead. She has been plastered, and not drunk plastered, not the fun plastered. She's been, like, plaster of Paris into a statue after having been strangled by her own hosiery. What do you want to say about this death?
Well, you get some good evidence from this death that again starts to trigger who you should actually be suspicious of. But I think I wasn't sure like why her death happened until later and multiple playthroughs and actually kind of figuring it out, because she wasn't murdered because of the forgery scheme, right? There was something. Yeah. I mean, it was a completely alternative reason than I thought the first time around.
Yeah, I mean, we can spoil that now if we want to. Yeah, it's we already know why. I mean, it's so the answer to who killed her is O'Reilly, and it's because at the end of the game, for those who haven't played, you are asked who killed everybody and why, and so the correct answers according to the game are that O'Reilly killed Yvette, and it was because of either jealousy or revenge. So it really just was she was sleeping around, and he killed her out of anger.
Entirely.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah, and he's been showing those kind of possessive inclinations throughout the game anyway, and he was really up. Yeah, I mean, you might as well,
right?
Especially once he's like, "Oh God, no, Ernie! Oh God, no, Wolf!" And it's like, no, nah, it's done.
I'm gonna get in on this. Yeah.
So you mentioned evidence on the body. We find some bifocals. Which are supposed to be the Countess's. according to the hint book, but maybe I just missed this. Does she wear bifocals? Is that a thing? Does she have bifocals? Maybe I just missed that in the art. Help?
That's a good question.
Not in her profile, her portrait, her speaking portrait, she doesn't.
Yeah. Because the hint book says something like that the bifocals were planted in order to make it seem like the Countess killed her.
Isn't O'Reilly the only character that wears bifocals in the game anyway?
I don't think...
Ramses wears glasses, but...
Ramses wears glasses, yeah, but O'Reilly doesn't have bifocals either. So I don't know, is what I'll say about that. But we also find some red hair, and the only people in the game with red hair are you, Laura Bow, Steve, and O'Reilly. So one of those three killed her.
Yeah, looking at the speech portraits, right, it's only Archibald Carrington and Ramses that have glasses. And for some reason, the Countess's speech portrait, I just feel like saying this, has always reminded me of one of the Guess Who characters. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Right, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I like that. But so yeah, we have another silly death, like the death itself is not too bad. Like she gets strangled. Okay, cool. That's plausible, but being plastered into a statue in the span of 5 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say that they keep getting crazier, but actually we've just circled back to Carrington being, or to Carter being stuffed in a night suit. It's kind of like a full circle back to that.
Exactly. So there's that, and then as we leave that place, we go back into the Thinker room. We get a little cutscene, and the Countess is now tied up on Olympia Miklos's desk. She looks like she's dying. Olympia, walks up, and the Countess, barely can get out. O'Reilly. And of course, well, not of course, but Miklos, just being who she is like, oh, O'Reilly, you want me to go get him? I'll find him. And then, she comes out and finds us, Laura, and says something like, have you seen Detective O'Reilly? The Countess is dying on my desk, and she wants to see him.
That's a very funny part of the game, because she plays it, so straight-faced. Like, yes.
Yeah.
And this is kind of... Oh, this is kind of where the grapes come into play, too, because we got told at the very beginning of the game that this fellow likes to eat his grapes. And we kind of, I think by now we kind of know he's eating them to cover up the smell of alcohol and stuff.
Yes. So, yeah, that is the explanation we hear. We didn't mention this, but at the end of Act 3, when we come in and tell about Ernie, there's a conversation and Wolf... So there's actually two things to this. Wolf, turns to O'Reilly and says, "Oh, you're smelling like a brewery," and what he actually smells of is the alcohol, right? That was in that Ernie was drowned in. But then one of them says something like, "Oh, it must be the grapes you're eating or the grapes that I'm eating." I forget which one does the excuse, but yeah, they mentioned that he eats grapes. But yes, but we do find grapes next to the Countess's body. But before that, we have to evade Barney. And Barney is Olympia's snake. And this is kind of it's fun and it's super frustrating at the same time. It's fun because there's this snake that comes in. There's this little snake music, like Cobra, stereotypical sort of snake swaying music. And if you don't act fast enough, the snake kills you. Just chomps you. The chomp sound effect is great too. Chomp. And you die. But what you have to do is use the snake oil on the snake a few times till it gets back into the corner. And then we can use the snake lasso that I mentioned very, very briefly, but there was a snake lasso that we found in the basement. Put the snake into the cage so it can't kill us. Then we get to examine the Countess's body. We find that there are snake teeth marks, on her, so that's how she died, is she was poisoned. And then if we're thorough, we also find, for some reason, some smelling salts on her. Who knows why she has those? I guess that's just a stereotypical common thing that women have on them in the 20s, I guess.
I think so. And you're wondering who set the snake free. I mean, you've kind of figured it out, but you're like, somebody obviously let the snake out of the cage.
Yeah, and so we know we know that it was O'Reilly because number one, like she says O'Reilly, and at first I thought it was cheating because that's in a cutscene when Laura's not there. But then I realized Olympia says to Laura, "Oh, hey, you know, the Countess asked for O'Reilly."
Right. Yeah.
So I thought it was cheating, but then I realized it wasn't. Because, you know, that's always cheap when there's information you only learn in a cutscene.
Right.
That the character, your character doesn't see, but that's not the case. And then as Anna pointed out, we have the grapes next to the Countess, which if you've been paying moderate attention, you kind of get that O'Reilly really loves grapes.
Yeah.
So it was him. We don't quite know why yet, or I guess maybe you could piece it together, but it's not obvious at all. And then the act ends.
I guess I could say if you didn't notice the grape thing, which as you alluded to, it's easier to notice it than to not. But if you didn't get the grape thing, then you could take her saying O'Reilly as like calling for the police. Maybe.
Interesting. Yeah.
You know, like he's the cop. Like get O'Reilly. Like, you know, I don't know. Maybe that's a stretch. I'm trying, but anyway. Yeah.
You're giving the game some credit there. I had never thought of that actually. But I do think like once you get to a point where like, okay, I've got to pick somebody who killed her. It's probably the name that she said right before she died.
Right.
That seems like a decent guess, you know?
Yeah.
He's
fair.
just no. She's calling him in to solve the crime
Exactly.
Right.
because he's a detective.
So yeah,
But
so
this
there's that. Anything before I talk about my fun fact about this act?
Not for me.
Nope, just that
Okay.
again at this point you're super sus on O'Reilly for sure, and
Exactly.
then that I like how the next act it almost like it changes the game. You're like you're in like I don't know, what would you say? It's like you're actively being pursued, so you're running around and it changes the whole game dynamic.
Yes. Yeah, so we will absolutely get to that. The one thing I want to say, just because it includes some clues here, there's two bits of dialogue that I want to talk about, and one is hard to find and one is impossible to find. So downstairs at Wolf's office, you can listen in on his door and hear a number of different conversations. The thing is, normally in the game, when you come across a door and there's a conversation happening that you can eavesdrop on, the game will tell you. It'll say you hear some muffled voices coming from the door. It doesn't do that with this. So it's super easy to miss. And I don't actually think I've seen anybody in a Let's Play do this because you just have to like guess like, oh, well, let's try listening at that door. There's no indication you can do this. There's a number of conversations. The only one that's interesting is that you can overhear Wolf and Olympia in there. And I actually wrote this down. Wolf says, I'd do anything. I would do anything for you, like lie, steal, murder, especially murder. And she says, Wolfie love, you give me the chills. Please scare me some more. Oh, all right, if it would please you. And then he says, the Countess, that woman must die. And then Olympia says something like, "Oh, I love it when you joke with me," right? But it's more dialogue to maybe throw you towards the area of like, oh, maybe they are the killers, right? And then to reinforce that, there's some inaccessible dialogue. So the way this works is that in Act 3, way back in Act 3, you can find O'Reilly in the dinosaur room, in the pterodactyl room, but after Ziggy dies, he's gone. He's just gone from the game, except in like cutscenes, but you can never ask him anything.
Right.
So that means you can never ask him about the murders. You can never ask him about his thoughts about the investigation. And there's like 5 minutes of conversations asking him about each of the murder victims that you just cannot hear because you can't find him. You can't find him in the museum. They forgot again about whether you could hear this stuff. And
Man.
One of those is a joke. I like this one. He tries to tell Laura that for Ernie, that Ernie climbed on the mastodon and then drank himself to death, and that explains the alcohol. Like he drank himself to death and then spilled the alcohol on himself. And that's what really happened. But then if you could have asked him about Yvette's murder, He says that he thinks that there are 2 murderers at work and that they could have used fast drying plaster, but that, and I'm quoting here, doing all that work and moving her body would have been easier with 2 people. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm getting a wee bit suspicious about Olympia and that Heimlich fellow. So, again, more dialogue kind of throwing us in the direction of maybe Olympia and Heimlich are doing something. Mm-hmm. But we don't get to hear that.
That's funny. This game is so funny.
It's hard to wrap my head around a mistake of these calibers. Like, I guess you could always excuse one, but now that this one has happened again, like, like maybe it's easier to have mistakes like this with a bigger team, because I'm thinking of like, this is like a larger development team. How could they, like, so many different, nobody at any point notice something like this that you'd want to talk to the cop about the crime, or not only just you'd want to talk to the cop, but you'd also want to talk to who you're now have mounting suspicion could be the person. Mm-hmm. And obviously,
he's just gone. You can't find him anywhere. Who knows? He's hanging out in the sub basement, I guess. Mm-hmm. Right. There's a secret break room somewhere. He's having some coffee. But yeah, should we move on to Act 5 then?
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So Act 5, Rex takes a bite out of crime.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Who wants to take the intro on this?
Oh gosh, yeah. Do you want to take that, Paul, or do you want me to take it?
Yeah, go ahead, because you kind of alluded to it earlier. So we got high stakes here.
So Laura's being actively chased by the killer, and this is kind of when we go from what I was trying to say is puzzle solving to like a cat and mouse chase idea. So she needs to sneak somewhere and get in and do a little bit of a hide. So in the sarcophagus, and there's a bit of a process to get to it. And then the killer comes in and it's super sketchy, right? Because you're just expecting them to come find you. I found there was a little bit of heightened tension in this scene.
Yeah, a lot. I'd say a lot of heightened tension. The game changes, and it's almost like it's super abrupt. I have seen people like in Let's Plays think that they missed a cutscene, like it's so abrupt because you just start.
It's very quick.
And all of a sudden, there's a dude in like tattered robes chasing you, and if he catches up to you, he'll just brain you with a club, right?
Like in Phantasmagoria, where there's the chase scene.
Yeah. It's the same sort of feeling, and you have to do kind of a long trial and error thing to figure out how to evade him, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a multi-step process that I think, like game design wise, is kind of frustrating. Like it's cool. Again, this is one of those like cool but also rough edges thing where it's interesting that you have a chase at the end to kind of heighten the tension, but also like it eventually becomes kind of tedious because you have to try this thing and then try that thing and then you're dead and then try that thing until you like very gradually figure it out. You just have to try everything until you finally figure out how to escape the killer, at least momentarily.
Yeah, it should be half as long as it is, or like half as many steps. It's just way too much.
Yes.
But it does lead, after all this, into a bit of an interesting reveal.
Yes, and I should say, so to before we get there, I do want to say one of the things you have to do to slow down the killer is to get some wire cutters and then cut a little bit of wire from the pterodactyl, the one that was hanging on the ceiling, and then wrap that around the door to slow him down. And there are 2 reasons I want to mention that. One is that so in Act 5, there are like, I'm counting here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think 7 different dead man walking scenarios. Jeez. This is the first one because if you don't have the wire cutters, you can't do that and you die. Right. You have to have the wire cutters and you have to have gotten them beforehand. The other thing is there's a clue on them. If you magnify the wire cutters, and remember that the pterodactyl was cut with wire cutters, you find an odd bit of beige coat fabric. And the only buddy with a beige coat in the game is O'Reilly. Mm-hmm. So you have to kind of put that together. So that is one reason that we know that O'Reilly killed Ziggy. We may not know why yet, but if you put that together, then that's a pretty straightforward hint in that direction. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we escape him. We'll spare people the details of the escape. You just do a bunch of stuff, and you find yourself in the basement, and you find something we haven't really mentioned, but it's been alluded to a couple of times in some dialogue. An Egyptian cult. It's the cult of Amon Ra is in the basement.
Yep. Sun worshippers, here we are.
Yep. And so we finally see Ramses Najir again. He's the head of it, you know. And then here he gives us this riddle that actually Ziggy had told us at the very beginning of the game. So if you caught onto that, you had like all game to think about it. There's also a hint to it on the blackboard, but it's not direct there. But here's another dead man walking scenario. You have to answer in hieroglyphics, which I don't really know how that works. Like, is Laura just pointing to it in her notebook, or is she writing it out? I don't understand, because you don't speak in hieroglyphics.
Right.
But if you don't have the alphabet, or you had to copy it down, then you can't finish the game. You're just dead. Yeah. They'll mummify you. So you escape that, and then there's this fun little sequence where Steve is in the coal chute of the furnace. You're trying to escape the killer. You hear some gunshots, right? And because the killer's following you. And, you know, just was shooting up, I guess, the Egyptian room at this point. I don't know why he just didn't shoot Laura earlier in the chapter. Like, if that was I don't know why he didn't just shoot her then, but okay.
Would have been convenient.
Yeah. And so Steve's in the coal bin. He's knocked out, right?
Yeah, he's been beat the hell up.
Yes. And dumped in there. And so if you take too long in this room, the killer will catch up and shoot you. Yeah. Right. So what you have to do is to use the smelling salts to wake him up. If you don't have the smelling salts, you can't finish the game. That's another dead man walking scenario. As he gets up, he steps on a nail. Yeah. And in the game, it's hard to even tell that. You sort of have to guess that that's what's happening. Yeah. It does confirm that in the hint book, because it says something like, Steve stepped on a nail. What can I do about that? Right? But who knows? That doesn't count. That's in the hint book.
Yeah, and then because he needs something on his feet, otherwise he can't escape.
Correct. He needs something on his feet. He needs his boot, and the boot is obnoxious because in the floppy version, the boot is to be found in the armor room, but only in Act 4 and only after you bust open and after you find Yvette in the plaster. So it's at the end of the game, at the end of Act 4.
That's mean.
Is the only time that you can find this boot, and there's no indication for you to go that direction. Yeah. There's no indication there's anything over there. It's just it's obnoxiously bad, right? So in the CD version, they fixed for all the problems in the CD version, which they introduced more bugs in the CD version. They did fix this, and if you didn't pick up the boot, it's next to the coal bin. You just pick it right up next to Steve, right? So it's not
good. Okay.
So that in the CD version, it's not technically a dead man walking scenario anymore.
Yeah, that's a lot to go back for.
It definitely, because you have to go back through all like the Egyptian stuff. You've got to go back through the chase sequence. You have to go back through Barney, which is sort of an arcade-ish sequence because you're dumping the snake oil multiple times on Barney, right? Yeah. And so that's bad. So anyway, you do that, and then for some reason there's a secret passage in the furnace room, right? That you use Steve to open up, and you crawl in there, and it's dark, and you need a lantern, or else the snakes in the tunnel will kill you. And so if you didn't pick up the lantern, you're dead. You can't finish the game. That's another dead man walking scenario. So then you have the snake oil, because you need to get past the snakes. So even if you turn on the lamp, you have the lamp, you turn it on, you see the snakes, you got to get past the snakes. We need the snake oil. It is very possible, and this is so mean, that you used all your snake oil at Barney. Oh. Because what happens is that you're backing Barney the snake, the cobra, slowly into the corner. Right. Okay. And you only need to use 3/4 of the bottle to back him into the corner. You can use the last quarter on Barney if you want to. It doesn't do anything. But then it means you don't have any snake oil left over for the snakes at the end of the game. Oh. And so it's this really, I think this is like one of the worst things that Sierra's ever done, just because, and I say this in the video, like when you play a game, and Paul, I think you'll relate to this, your game teaches the player how to play it through the feedback that you give them, right? Like if you do something and then you get some sort of response, some sort of stimulus, right? From your action, you learn what that does. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? So what you learn is that if you use the snake oil, the snake goes away from you and towards its cage. So you learn, using the oil repeatedly on the snake is a good thing. Until it's not at the very end.
So mean.
It's so mean. And technically, you can go back downstairs and get more snake oil there if you even bothered to figure that out. There's a tiny, almost impossible to find container of snake oil in the basement that you can refill it.
Wow.
But
I didn't know
the problem with that is, there's a container of snake oil in the basement, and you can refill it, right? The problem is, just imagine this as a player. You've put Barney away. You've discovered this body. Are you going to walk away from the body? Is that what you're going to do? Because you've learned from Sierra games, well, if I do that, maybe the body won't even be back there.
Right.
When I get back, I'm walking away from a crime scene. And when you pick up the grapes, that's the trigger that when you walk out of the room that the act ends.
Oh my God. Okay.
So if you thoroughly investigate the Countess, and you don't even have to do it that thoroughly, like the grapes are pretty obvious. They're bright green against a black floor, right? You go into where again, let's just paint this picture. There's a dead body on the desk. Do you look at the dead body or do you leave the room? Right?
Nobody's leaving the room.
You look at the dead body. You see some grapes on the floor. That looks like evidence. You pick it up.
Yeah.
Next time you leave the room, the act ends. You can't get downstairs.
Yeah, nobody's leaving that room.
No. So I think that's super mean.
Yeah.
And you can't Anyway, what you're supposed to do is have some snake oil left over. You use that on the snakes. You go to the next screen. That's not enough. There are some rats that are there. There's just so many things in a row. And you have to use the cheese, not on the rats, but on one of the passage exits. So if you don't have the cheese, can't finish the game. That's another dead men walking scenario. There's like a whole bunch just all in a row for some reason. But you either send the rats down into the furnace where they burn alive, or you send them out of the passage, which is out of the T-Rex, out of the mouth of the T-Rex that you found in the beginning of the game, which, by the way, the T-Rex talks. Like, it's a talking T-Rex. You push a button, and it's, hi, I'm T-Rex, and I am a dinosaur, and I lived a million years ago. Whatever it is.
You did that voice very well.
That was very good, yeah.
That was really good.
In the game, that's voiced by Josh Mandel, actually.
Nice.
That's another Josh Mandel one. That's kind of actually how it sounds. That's nice. So, for some reason, the passage from the furnace room connects to the dinosaur.
Yeah.
I don't understand at all. So you come out of there, and then you hit the button to make the dinosaur talk, hence the title of the chapter, which is Rex Takes a Bite at a Crime. And that traps the killer in the dinosaur's jaws. I don't know how that actually traps him. That doesn't make any sense to me either. It would seem that the killer could very easily push an animatronic jaw up because it's designed to whatever. And then as we're about to unmask the killer, screen goes to black, and that's the end of the act.
Yep. Wow, that's intense.
Yeah.
I'm like breathing heavy here. It's a lot, right? I mean,
it's a lot of stuff all in a row. Yep.
Yeah, it really is. And then the ending is interesting. Like I said at the beginning of the episode with you, this is the moment where you were just like, oh, I guess I was supposed to be paying attention this whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Does anybody want to introduce Act 6?
Yeah. Okay, so the coroner's inquest, very cute. Right, it's got that Colonel's Bequest vibe. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this is, I guess, just like a classic whodunit recap here. So coroner's going to question us, and now we basically have to piece together every threads you didn't think you were going to have to piece together come into play here.
Oh my God, the entire chain of events from like the very first scene at the very beginning all the way up to the showdown with O'Reilly. You better have been paying attention.
Right.
And all the subplots, right? The dagger theft, what else? The art forgery ring, the cult, like everything is culminating now.
Yes, absolutely everything. And I have in my notes here that there's sort of like three main mysteries in the game. There's who stole the dagger, what's going on with the paintings, and then who killed everybody. And like there's some other small things, like you mentioned with the cult, but like that's sort of the big things. And so if you don't know that, then this is really difficult.
Yeah, then you're like death by missed details at the end of the game.
To the degree that there's too many mysteries, there is
Yes.
a bit of apathy by the time you see the cult thing, because you're just like, dude,
Yeah.
I don't even know what to do with that.
No, absolutely. So I don't necessarily want us to go through like every single person and every single question, because that might take too long. But we should probably talk about, let's do a couple of them. So you're asked, who stole the dagger?
Right.
And so really like the only hint that I think we get to that is Yvette saying that Carrington and O'Reilly worked together to steal the dagger. Like we overheard that. And now I know we're at the end of like an hours long podcast here, and I do have notes, but my brain is kind of fried a little bit. The correct answer, according to the game, is that Watney Little stole the dagger under the influence of, or under the manipulation of O'Reilly. And I guess my question to you, and this goes into kind of the bigger question I wanted to talk about, but do we get any direct indication of that? Because I don't think so. Because we get that they worked together to steal the dagger, like, sure.
Yeah.
But then, like, why couldn't it have been O'Reilly who stole the dagger and Carrington was just like a lookout? I guess it makes more sense for him to be. It does make more sense for him to steal it because he actually works the museum,
Yeah.
So that probably makes more sense. If you know from the conversation with Yvette that O'Reilly and Carrington worked together to steal the dagger. But again, that's based on whether you trust Yvette and on whether you trust Yvette trusting Ziggy, because we're hearing it like third hand.
I mean, you do know that the dagger theft is linked to someone who has inside access. You get that earlier on.
Yes.
And the police file about his criminal record, and that, it tells us that Watney escaped in exchange for helping to steal the dagger, I guess is what you're supposed to gather from the police report.
Well, that's another bigger question, is that the police report says, remember our deal. What is the deal, right? Because we know that O'Reilly like manipulated Watney.
All the way through. He staged the dagger theft without raising it,
Yeah. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying without raising any suspicion, it was all done through eternally.
Yeah, exactly. But so the question that I have is, like, we know that O'Reilly manipulated Little into doing it. Partially, because of that note, and because O'Reilly, as a police officer, he's the only character who would have access to a police file. But then, like, what did O'Reilly do in exchange? So you just mentioned, here's one theory. Did O'Reilly help him break out of prison? And how? Maybe, but then how would he do that from across the Atlantic? But then, once, especially after hearing the thing with the Countess that we heard that nobody in the game can hear, another possibility is that somehow O'Reilly figured out Watney's identity and then blackmailed him, basically saying, I won't turn you into Scotland Yard if you do what I say.
Yeah.
Like, that seems somewhat plausible. But without that conversation with the Countess, the only thing, you have to really make some logical leaps. And I had gotten there earlier, but basically by saying, well, we know that Ziggy's a criminal informant, and we know from some conversation, we know that Ziggy's kind of a loudmouth, right?
Yeah.
From a few different places. And we know that Ziggy and O'Reilly, from some other conversations, work together. Like, he's a stool pigeon. He's a criminal informant. He, like, speaks secrets for money, like, to police, and he's worked with O'Reilly. So maybe Ziggy, spilled the beans on the the forgery operation, right? And so O'Reilly figured out, oh, who's this Watney Little guy? Or maybe Ziggy even told him. But somehow O'Reilly figured out who he was and then blackmailed him. That's another possibility. But again, you hear all these maybes. It's all speculation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would say he was deep enough in it to be a threat to O'Reilly, too. because of the forgery scheme.
Yeah, I think so. The reason, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but basically O'Reilly killed almost everybody.
Yeah, but he's not the answer to every single question.
No, he's not the answer to every single question, but most of them. And so I think that O'Reilly killed Watney a little just to like take care of the loose ends, right? Like Watney knew about that O'Reilly had helped him, steal the dagger. He could possibly testify against O'Reilly later. O'Reilly just didn't want to take that chance. That's what I think. But
Watney just knew too much.
Watney knew too much,
and he's the one he broke. He's the one that broke him out of the prison in the first place, anyways, right? So he knew.
We don't know that though. Like that's my question. Is like, did O'Reilly break him out of prison? I don't know.
I just assumed it, but I don't think it outright says it in the game.
Like that's not implausible. But then there's also the question of like, how would he do that from across the Atlantic? Like it almost makes more sense to me that the Countess would, because she's like British, right? But then I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't know. And we do know for sure that like she and Watney Little were working together. But then like you said, I did assume for a long time that O'Reilly had broken Watney Little out of prison, but the game doesn't actually say that.
No, you kind of have to assume it, and then when you're at the inquest, it kind of all comes together and makes sense because. Yeah, otherwise, because he's the one that directed him to steal the dagger, you have to infer that the whole thing was a plan in purpose right from the get-go.
I don't know. What do you think, Paul? Did you figure any of this out when you first played it?
Absolutely
Not on the first playthrough. Oh, my God.
Yeah. No, not at all. Because especially the first playthrough, because I was completely blind to the entire Watney Little subplot. Like it just at no point did it stick from the prologue where they showed the body being stuffed in the crate all the way through the end. I just never really. I almost, in a sense, I almost kind of want to blame how hard it was to find the book, because like it just threw me off the whole trail to where like I think like days later when I came back and found Crime and Punishment, like it just, I don't know. I think that had something to do with my separation from what the game narrative was at the moment. But yeah, no, I didn't figure any of it out.
Yeah, and my sort of thesis and what I think is I think this game, the mystery in the game, is impossible to figure out, especially your first playthrough, and especially if you have no assistance. I don't think it's possible to solve the mystery.
Not on I don't think it's the kind of game like this or the Colonel's Bequest. They are not meant to be completed on your first or even your second playthrough. You really have to go multiple times to figure it out.
Yeah. Though I would say Colonel's Bequest is much more straightforward.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But that's also because the plot is simpler. You can even argue. I think you could argue that plot is too simple, but that's another discussion. I still love that game. But let me ask you just here. I want to discuss this for a moment. I don't want to go through all the characters, right? But basically, for those listening, O'Reilly killed most everybody. But I want to ask you, how do we know who killed Carter? Because here's the thing. So the very first question you're asked is, who killed Pip and Carter, right? And so we've got a number of different pieces of evidence. We've got Tut Smith's ankh at the scene of the crime. We have a dainty woman's shoe print, right, which points to either Yvette or the Countess. We've got Carter's notebook that shows that Yvette was supposed to meet him there at the time and place of his death. And then we have the grape juice stain, which shows O'Reilly, right? So we've got possibly Smith, possibly Yvette, possibly O'Reilly, right? And so, yeah, and Smith as well, right? And so it's like, one of the things about mysteries is that typically the good ones, when there are red herrings, you'll find something to clear those off. Like there will be an explanation for it.
Yeah.
And we just don't get that here.
At all for the footprint or the medallion.
The medallion is nothing. It's just Tut Smith just dropped it, and that was it. Like that's the answer. Like it's the very first clue in the entire game to the murders, and it doesn't mean anything.
All it really does is eventually point to O'Reilly, because he's who eventually set all of that up.
Maybe. Like, do you? Okay. So is your idea that O'Reilly maybe stole it and then put it there?
I just think he staged the scenes. I think he planted the
Okay.
footprint to incriminate
Okay,
Yvette. And I
interesting.
think that the
Right.
medallion was probably stolen from Tut earlier and then dropped to frame him.
See, I like that idea, and I
Yeah, it
wish that the
rescues it a
game
bit.
gave us that. I
It
wish that
doesn't
there was-
actually, no. That's just
I wish
me.
I wish that there was a way to discover that. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying.
Right, because that does kind of rescue it. Because I not to sound overly harsh, because I really do enjoy the game, but I think the difference between like masterfully pulling off a murder mystery and being a bit of an imposter is things like that. Like Matt, you would kind of worded it where it's like you got to close these things off though, because if you're just planting confusion and misdirects with no logic and no reason, then it's cheap. It's like it's the difference between like a pro and like an amateur, basically. I would frame it as like somebody who's like pro at writing things like this would have a master plan all along. And then otherwise, I would imagine like the cheaper imitation would be like, and throw a footprint in there because that'll throw them off the trail. Like, and there's no rhyme or reason behind the footprint or whose it could have been. And like,
Such a Sierra thing to do, too. And then, I don't know, I guess we got the clue from the schedule that Carter was connected to Yvette and Tut and Carrington because of the appointments that we figured out. But it made it more confusing. That's all it did.
Yeah, because Yvette didn't have anything to do with Carter's death.
No,
so,
not at all.
Like, it doesn't mean anything. So I don't know. The only like sort of clue that we have is that Carter mentions that he had met Carrington earlier, so he knew the real identity. So like my guess is that O'Reilly knew that if Carter figured out that was a fake, then that would ruin everything. So he killed Carter to cover that up. But
That's
even
what I
that seems kind of far fetched, even because like I don't know.
Well,
he
imagine
wasn't- I don't know.
Carter had like public clout and he'd push through the investigation, and I'm assuming O'Reilly would have known that, so he needed to keep his operation hidden, so it makes sense.
So yeah, it makes sense. I just think it's hard to get there.
Yeah, no, it
like
is.
you have to understand the whole thing about the dagger theft in the first place to make that
That's
connection.
my
and
problem, yeah.
And then you have to like remember this one line at the very beginning of the game.
Well, it is, and O'Reilly
so-
lies about the coroner taking Carter's body away.
Yeah,
And it's all like,
that's true.
it's all very, it does feel vague, doesn't it? Like he
yeah.
has access to every area of the museum and the investigation. He has the power to plant fake clues and erase the real ones. So it was all very confusing.
Something I learned in game dev, like through even just through like beta testing with you guys, was like, okay, the player, I'm paying 10 times more attention to these lines than any player ever will. And
True.
I think that's where Ra goes wrong in a lot of areas, where they're like assuming that all of these little lines buried in the middle of an hour's worth of dialogue is going to be remembered and held on to, and the player's going to pick up on, oh wait, that clue means something. And it's like at the end of the day, like as a player, it's just you just don't. That's not quite the right way to put it. I guess as the player, you don't absorb everything to the degree of somebody who wrote it would. Like, I can't.
100%.
Yeah, I can't sink the shot here, but you get the sentiment.
Yeah, no. When you're creating something, like you see and all the details intimately. It's the same reason why, like, when a designer is designing puzzles in an adventure game, it's crystal clear to them.
Right.
But then you let somebody else loose on it who isn't thinking exactly like you,
Yeah.
and they struggle with it, and it's impossible, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. So there's that. I want to talk very briefly then just about how the endings work, not in great detail, but just because this blows my mind too. So you answer all these questions, right? So you answer all these questions, and then your ending in the game. There are actually 4 different endings. And your ending is based on how you answer all those questions and on what you have in your inventory. Okay. And so where to even start with this? One major thing is that the hint book leads you astray. And it tells you that to get the best ending, you need to have all sorts of stuff. You've got to have, we didn't even talk about this. There's a vet's garter that you can find. There's the crumpled up carbon paper that talks about Ernie being involved in a fencing operation. There's Yvette's shoe that you find in her office. There's a whole bunch. There's like, I think it feels like 20 different things that you need to get, but it's wrong. The hint book's just wrong, and you see people like making sure to grab everything. To get the best ending, all that you need are the grapes, the bifocals, the red hair, the wire cutters, and the dagger. Damn. That's it. And which to me, the most shocking thing is that you don't need to find the police file to get the best ending. The one where you learn Watney Little's identity. Right. You do not need to find that. It's not required. It doesn't matter. You don't need to have that. So there's that. You also need to answer the question. So there's questions about the murders, and then there's questions about the dagger, and then there's like random questions like about the art theft and who was the high priest of the sun worshippers and who was in the fencing business, like the random odds and ends, right? So to get that best ending, you need to answer most of the questions correctly. But all the questions about the art theft, they don't matter. It does not matter how you answer that. The game just doesn't care. It never checks that you got the right answer. It doesn't affect your ending at all.
Oh my God, that's funny. So you get your perfect ending with full justice, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, you can answer, like, you can get, as long as you get the murder and dagger questions wrong, that, like, yeah, you're fine. You can, just make up, Steve was the art theft middleman, sure. Yeah. Game doesn't care. You still get the best ending. Like, it doesn't care, which is mind-blowing to me. The other thing is that there are two questions that determine, like, whether you figured out the dagger theft, and so that's, the game asks you who stole the dagger, and the answer is Watney Little, and then who manipulated Little, the answer is O'Reilly. If you get either of those questions wrong, the game acts not as if you just don't know who stole it, but it acts as if you never found the dagger. Because the coroner will say, like, it would have been great if you could have brought the dagger to me. And there's, like, ending slides that are, like, after you gave the dagger away, when you didn't. And it's this ridiculous. Again, that's why I think at some point you were able to give it away. But in fact, you have to find the dagger because it's one of the triggers for the clock to progress and for you to finish Act 3. You cannot finish the game without getting the dagger. But the coroner's like, why? If you would have brought that to me, that would have been great.
God, it's crazy. What the dagger does in this game is advance time twice. And that's it.
It's just so bizarre. But anyway, yeah, I think that's a little crazy, and I think I'll just mention that there are neat little variations throughout all the endings depending on. It basically looks at, did you figure out who the murderer is, and did you figure out the dagger theft, and then the combinations of that, and that can be yes or no yes or whatever. And so I think probably the rarest one is when you didn't find the murderer, but you did figure out who stole the dagger, right? So one of the endings is that, and you get appropriate ending slides based on that. Like I can't imagine getting that ending where you figured out, like you didn't. There was something of the murders you didn't figure out, but you figured out who stole the dagger.
Yeah.
So. That's that. So yeah, I think we kind of talked about how the game functions as a mystery already, but just to kind of recap it, like here's my feeling on it. It's sort of, I love the game for what it does right. The atmosphere is cool, the characters are funny, the descriptions are neat, but at the same time, the mystery just isn't good. Like there's too much mystery. There's no straightforward way of figuring it out. Honestly, I think most people metagame it, where they just they answer at the quiz until they get it right, until they're told that they got things right. Right. And then kind of go from there. Or like I think the way that most people figure out Watney Little's existence is that the quiz at the end has his name in the list of suspects. And then no matter what your ending is, so even if you don't figure out who the murderer is and you don't figure out who stole the dagger, there's still an ending slide that says Watney Little wasn't a nice man, and so nobody missed him when he died. And there's a picture of Carrington there as that slide is playing. And so it's like, I've seen people in Let's Plays be like, oh, that kind of revealed too much, didn't it?
Right.
Like, okay, I guess he's the imposter now. And they only learned it because the ending told them when they didn't figure it out.
That says a lot right there. Because, yeah.
And then just all the other, like, red herrings, like, the stuff about, did the Countess really kill her husband? I think so, probably, but you can never confirm that. There's not a quiz question about it. I guess thankfully, but there's also no way to confirm it. And then so that there's things like that. You can still argue like how exactly did O'Reilly gain influence over Little? You have to just guess and speculate. And some of the like did O'Reilly kill this person is pretty straightforward because there's evidence. But then others are like, I guess he killed this person because he killed everybody else. What's this? Like, I guess that's what it is. And so it's so confusing. And then it's just broken too. Like, it pretends like when even if you didn't give the dagger away, it tells you that you did give it away. Oh, I didn't even mention this part. When you get a bad ending, you're led in the wrong direction because the coroner will say things like, you need to mess with less of the evidence. You because you tampered with evidence, drawing conclusions is going to be hard to find. So like it makes it seem like you took too little, but actually, if you got a bad ending, you probably didn't take enough evidence. Like you missed a few of the things that you needed, right? And he also tells you that like you didn't thoroughly question the suspects. Guess what? You don't need to talk to anybody. You don't have to. Right. You can, but you don't have. That's not an ending requirement. And so it's like it tells you like the wrong stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't equip you for a successful replay. You're right. It sends you in redundant directions in a sense.
Yep. Yeah, remember at the end of Colonel's Bequest where at least they weren't all good, but there were at least hints at the end of the Colonel's Bequest that pointed you, hey, did you find this thing or that thing? And, but Dagger like just doesn't do that. And it's just sort of, it feels like they were like, oh God, this is going to sound harsh and I don't mean it to be harsh. It feels like it's play acting at being a mystery instead of actually being a mystery. It's still fun. I don't want anybody to misconstrue that. Like it's fun in the parts that it gets right. I have been obsessed with this game ever since it released. Sometimes because it's like a car crash more than anything. Yeah. But like, yeah, there's just so much. You can see what I mean. I think at the very beginning of this, I said that the game is flawed in ways that are fascinating, and from things like the dagger doesn't matter. You can't confront people with evidence. The testimony of people contradicts itself. The ending doesn't keep track of the facts. There's no way to figure out the mystery. There's inaccessible dialogue that would have helped explain it, but you can't hear it. It's a beautiful mess.
It is. It really is. It's full of strange characters, hidden details and surprises everywhere. And I will say it's been a heck of a lot of fun unpacking it here with you guys. This is like my favorite thing right now. I hope people enjoy listening to it as much fun as I've had, dissecting the game and putting it back together.
Okay, Anna, I have a quick summary and then let's get your I guess, final thoughts, closing thoughts on how you, I don't know, how you see the game in general as a mystery, as a game, etc. But I would just say that I think this is a great game in spite of itself. It's like it's I don't know, it has no business being as beloved to me as it is and as genuinely fun as it is to play when you really think about anything at all going on under the hood with the game. Like it doesn't almost, again, I don't want to sound recklessly harsh or anything, but it's like very little holds up on its own under scrutiny. Like it's not built in a very sturdy way. Like you said it really well, Matt, with it, like play acting. I think I'd struggled for the similar wording earlier when I said like there's like this imposter essence when it comes to a mystery, because it's not. I don't know, it doesn't have that masterful execution that a mystery should, where loose ends are accounted for, and it just seems really. It's just crazy that it's as good as I think it is.
Yeah, and just to jump in real quick, you said something that made me think of something else. So like in a classical like Agatha Christie murder mystery, you have the parlor scene at the end where everybody's gathered and you reveal, who did it. What's missing from the Dagger or from Dagger is the why. So like when Poirot, explains things, he also explains this person killed this person for this motive, but here's how I figured it out.
Right.
And here's how I know.
Yeah.
And the Dagger just doesn't have that last part.
Right.
No. It leaves a lot of it ambiguous. I think a part of it, too, is it's like the people making it wanted to leave some of it ambiguous, just to the tone of film noir and things of its time. I mean, implying things is just about as good as giving you the exact evidence, even though for us as a player, it would be more satisfying. It wasn't necessarily traditional to do that.
Maybe it was the replayability that really kind of cost us that. Like they instead of at the end telling us what happened, let's say when we get the answers wrong and being like, no, like they just wanted you to replay it so that you could maybe get it right next time. But even getting it right doesn't come with why, does it?
Not altogether. No. So, I would love to hear some closing thoughts on the game from all of us, actually. I'll just say, to me, the game is kind of like a snapshot of that time in gaming. It wanted to tell a story bigger than the technology it was built on. And you can kind of feel the tension of that, to me, everywhere. There's this really neat timeless charm about it. It's blending that straight up humor with tragedy, and it doesn't feel safe. The game feels really unpredictable. Like you can still play it now and totally get blindsided by the game. It's challenging you to pay attention to the small details, which is a lot of the things that as society, it's really hard to do sometimes. There's so much to pay attention to. So I don't know. It's a little rough around the edges, but to me that's just kind of a part of its soul.
Indeed. Okay. I'll give a short one. Pass it off to you, Matt. I think LucasArts was like the masterful storytellers, and that this game is more evident that Sierra struggled with that a little bit more. But what Sierra was masterful at was exploration, and this game. That's why I adore this game, because the story doesn't even. It can be surprisingly incohesive, let's say. And it's crazy that how little that seems to matter to me, because at the end of the day, I'm able to explore this world and look at and interact with everything and be entertained with every click, and to just like the atmosphere means I can't understate that or overstate that enough. Just the feeling and the tension in the air and feeling like you're actually immersed in a murder mystery and being able to explore and having all these characters, and it feels like a world that's come to life. And It's another masterful exposition on why Sierra was so good at letting you free into one of their worlds to explore. And in just the act of exploring was good enough. Like the story could be pretty damn mid at best. But if the exploration was good and the flavor text was good, it's like that's kind of all I needed. That's what I value the most. So it's able to rescue a game even with a iffy story. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that perspective, actually, because I'm a big, what I've discovered about myself is that I'm a big sucker for like world building.
Yeah.
So if your world is interesting, if the kind of tone and the feeling of the atmosphere is good, then I can enjoy a game even if it has a story that maybe isn't great, or if it has puzzles that maybe aren't great. And I think Dagger is a great example of that. I guess in addition to everything that I've said, I'll give this as an example. So I played through this game on my Twitch stream starting like last November, and over a period of a couple of months, like every week, so I do a little bit just to get footage for my big video. And I found just a ton of stuff that I either didn't remember or I had never seen before in the game. and I think that goes to Paul's point about exploration. There's so much in this, and I was constantly finding things, and funny things. The game is just super funny, and the characters are interesting for the most part, even if some of them are based on stereotypes, which is its own problematic thing, but they're memorable at least.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I want to say, is that it's easy to keep finding things in this game, whereas I think both in a good and bad way, LucasArts would have streamlined this game a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
There wouldn't have been, the story would have been better, the gameplay would have been more forgiving, but there wouldn't have been as much to uncover and find. And I think you have both the good and the bad with that, right? This is, this sort of this rough experience, but you have just a ton of gems that you find, and you find dialogue that you'd never seen before, and little moments that you didn't know were there, and it's almost like figuring out the game, like in a meta game sense, is the game that's more fun, like figuring out how it's put together and how it works. And that's been my experience with this. I guess I would say is that, and diving into the code too, and figuring out how it works and how broken it is. That's just been really rewarding, because you just find things and you're like, oh my gosh, why did they do it this way? Why is it done this way? This doesn't make any sense. But you know what? It's there, and then there's this weird thing that I didn't know before, and now I get to go see it. This Dagger is my kind of guilty pleasure, beautiful mess game.
Yeah, well said.
Hear, hear. So, before we go ahead and close this case, I just want to take a minute to say thank you to our Patreons, especially Niall has joined as a free member, and thank you for joining us, and Marina Turner. I am so bad with names. I'm sorry. You guys know that, though, if you've been listening to this podcast. I'm terrible with names. But outside of that, I also really want to say thank you to our... There we go. True Believer tier with Gareth, Mick, Jeffrey, Mark, Brian, Chapman, Christopher, Yanis, Tim. Thank you so much for being a part of just giving us the opportunity to keep putting out this show and talking about the games that we're all totally obsessed with. Paul, did you have anything you wanted to talk about briefly with the Phantom Fellows before I close it off?
No. It's a bloody perfect companion for your spooky season. Get it
There
now,
you go.
live on GOG and Steam and all the stores. Not
Stream
all the
it,
stores.
play through it, put a video out on YouTube, leave a review, talk about it. This is the time of year that we want to see it on all of the computers for all the different reasons. So,
Yeah.
so
wow,
please
thank you.
do
That was really good. Yeah. Yeah. Reviews are always appreciated. Check it out. Tell people about it. Anything you can do helps. And also Adventure Game Hotspot, who we're all three of us are lucky to be or proud to be an affiliate of, or whatever wording. They just launched their community forums.
Hell yes, we need community forums back in the community. As many of us know, we've lost our adventure game community forums. And so this is going to be the resurgence, and it's going to be bigger and better than it ever had been anywhere else.
And then, of course, obviously, please check out OneShortEye's YouTube channel. I'd be kind of shocked if any of our listeners haven't by now, but the best way I can describe OneShortEye's videos is that we are lucky that his thing is adventure games, because it's
so lucky.
It's that quality kind of documentary that there's like very little bits on YouTube, and every now and then you find a type of documentarian, I guess you could say, and it's just, we're just lucky that he's into what we're into, so we actually get like ridiculously high quality deep dives on games like this and Longbow and etc. So if you haven't already, go check out OneShortEye on YouTube, and yeah, thanks for chatting with us, man.
Well, yeah, thank you for that plug. And to tie those last two things together, on the Adventure Game Hotspot forums, I have a thread where I have open, like, if you have a Dagger of Amon Ra question that you want me to answer, if you have a technical thing you want to know how the code works, you can go and ask it there.
I love it.
So
go to the proud new. We're speaking to the proud new owner of DaggerofAmonRa.com.
Oh yeah, darn. Well, I guess I'll have to finish making the homepage before you put this out. Then, all right. I guess that puts a fire under me.
That's right.
Yeah, but there's some. God, I won't go into details, but there will be supplemental stuff up there. Dagger of Amon Ra.com.
It's really cool.
Which I just bought like a week ago maybe. But in any case, yeah, you can find me on YouTube. It's just OneShortEye. I'm also on Blue Sky if you care about social media. I've got a Discord, and the link to that is in the description of every one of my videos. So there is all that. Thank you for having me on. I love talking about games, especially when I've spent this much time thinking about them.
Oh, and before I entirely wrap it up, I got this recommendation from you, Matt, but you recommended a channel called Technology Connections. And I have now watched every single video that he's put out, and some of them more times. So anybody listening to this podcast, if you do want another channel with quality goods that just talks about your appliances and everyday things around your house that you can become entirely obsessed with, please look it up, because I got entirely obsessed with it thanks to you.
Yeah, Technology Connections is always my go-to when people, say things like, well, you've got to have a trending topic on YouTube. And I'm like, this dude talks for 30 minutes about how toasters work, and it's fascinating. As long as you're passionate about a topic, it almost doesn't matter. If you're good at presenting and talking and you have something that you have a burning desire to share with people, that's what's important.
That's what my husband says about your videos. He says, I'm not interested in the subject, but it's like a documentary, and it's history, and it's interesting, and it's factual. So I'm going to sit and watch the whole damn thing anyways. It doesn't matter what it's about if it's good quality content.
Agreed.
So, say hi to us. We are on Twitter at CGG Podcast and the Phantom Fellows. We're also on Blue Sky and Mastodon and all those other, as you said, social media places. Become a Patreoner and support the show at patreon.com, Classic Gamers Guild. Please send us an email, mail at cggpodcast.com. People come for the outtakes, I'm sure. Join the group. We're on Facebook as a page and a group, the Classic Gamers Guild Podcast. We're also on Instagram, and we're on YouTube.
Don't do a murder!
So fuck that guy and his cabbage farm.
I'll do the intro. I have an intro.
Yay.
Nice. So pro.
Do you want me to start now?
Oh, were you waiting? Okay.
I just wasn't sure if you wanted to do something first.
That was a lot of silence you let go by before saying anything. I'm just saying that was okay.
I felt like it would be inappropriate for me to jump in.
Right, yeah.